on working out the math on this.
All right. So, Abhishek, very quickly from you before the Finance Minister starts, your expectations on direct taxes, do you see any big change there?
So I think there can be some moderation of the taxes by way of by way of exceeding this exemption limit. That can happen because, see, in any case, what was expected in the last time when this income range was increased was that it will go further. But I think they have done that in 2 steps. So, and that has helped because if you see the last time this exemption limit which went up saved a lot of middle class income taxpayers from the compliance burden. The consumption rose, and at the end of the day, it was neutral in terms of tax because the moment the consumption happens, there is more GST collection which happens. We have seen the numbers of GST growing as well and robust income tax collection as well. So I think from that perspective, it will be a
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We will continue with this conversation. But I think our Finance Minister is all set to place the budget on the floor of the House. Let's try to cut across and hear what Nirmala Sitharaman is saying.
Thank you.
Two, report for 2026-2031, Volume 2, annexures of the 16th Finance Commission. Number 3, explanatory memorandum as to the action taken on the recommendations contained in the above report.
Item number 2, Maanya Vitt Mantri Nirmala Sitharaman ji.
Honorable Speaker, sir, on the sacred occasion of Magh Purnima and the birth anniversary of Guru Ravidas, I present the budget for the year 2026-2027. Since we assumed office 12 years ago, India's economic trajectory has been marked by stability, fiscal discipline, sustained growth, and moderate inflation. This is the result of conscious choices we have made, even in times heightened uncertainty and disruption. Our government, led by Honorable Prime Minister Modi, has decisively and consistently chosen action over ambivalence, reform over rhetoric, and people over populism. We have pursued far-reaching structural reforms, fiscal prudence and monetary stability, whilst maintaining a strong thrust on public investment. Keeping Atmanirbharta as a lodestar, we have built domestic manufacturing capacity, energy security, and reduced critical import dependencies. Simultaneously, we have ensured that citizens benefit from every action of the government, undertaking reforms to support employment generation, agricultural productivity, household purchasing power, and universal services to people. These measures have delivered a high growth rate of around 7% and helped us make substantial strides in poverty reduction and improvement in the lives of our people. Today, we face an external environment in which trade and multilateralism are imperiled and access to resources and supply chains are disrupted. New technologies are transforming production systems while sharply increasing demands on water, energy, and critical minerals. India will continue to take confident steps towards Vikasit Bharat, balancing ambition with inclusion. As a growing economy with expanding trade and capital needs, India must also remain deeply integrated with global markets, exporting more and attracting stable long-term investment. As I begin Part A, I want to express my gratitude to the people for standing firmly with us as we forge our way together towards becoming one of the largest economies of the world. Our aim is to transform aspiration into achievement and potential into performance as we ensure that the dividends of growth reach every farmer, the scheduled caste, the scheduled tribes, the nomads, the youth, the poor, and the women. In Vikasit Bharat Young Leaders Dialogue 2026, several innovative ideas were shared with our Prime Minister, which have inspired many of the proposals, making this a unique Yuva Shakti-driven budget. Our government's sankalp is to focus on our poor, underprivileged, and the disadvantaged. To deliver on this sankalp, and given that this is the first budget prepared in Kartavya Bhavan, we are inspired by three Kartavya. Our first Kartavya is to accelerate and sustain economic growth by enhancing productivity and competitiveness and building resilience to volatile global dynamics. Our second Kartavya is to fulfill aspirations of our people and build their capacity, making them strong partners in India's path to prosperity. Our third Kartavya, aligned with our vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, is to ensure that every family, community, region, and sector has access to resources, amenities, and opportunities for meaningful participation. This threefold approach requires a supportive ecosystem. The first requirement is to sustain the momentum of structural reforms, continuous, adaptive, and forward-looking. Second, a robust and resilient financial sector is central to mobilizing savings, allocating capital efficiently, and managing risks. Third, cutting-edge technologies, including AI applications, can serve us as force multipliers for better governance. Reform Express. Our government has undertaken comprehensive reforms towards creating employment, boosting productivity, and accelerating growth. After the Prime Minister's announcement on Independence Day in 2025, over 350 reforms have been rolled out. This includes GST simplification, notification of labor codes, and rationalization of mandatory quality control orders. High-level committees have been formed, and in parallel, the central government is working with the state governments on deregulation and reducing compliance requirements. The Reform Express is well on its way and will maintain its momentum to help us fulfill our Kartavya. I now move to specific proposals. Under our first Kartavya, to accelerate and sustain economic growth, I propose interventions in 6 areas. 1. Scaling up manufacturing in 7 strategic and frontier sectors. 2. Rejuvenating legacy industrial sectors. 3. Creating champion MSMEs. 4. Delivering a powerful push for infrastructure. 5. Ensuring long-term security and stability. And 6. Developing city economic regions. Scaling up of manufacturing in 7 strategic and frontier sectors. Biopharma Shakti, meaning biopharma strategy for health advancement through knowledge, technology, and innovation. India's disease burden is observed to be shifting towards non-communicable diseases like diabetes, cancer, and autoimmune disorders. Biologic medicines are key to longevity and quality of life at affordable costs. To develop India as a global biopharma manufacturing hub, I propose the Biopharma Shakti with an outlay of 10,000 crores over the next 5 years. This will build the ecosystem for domestic production of biologics and biosimilars. The strategy will include a biopharma-focused network with 3 new national institutes of pharmaceutical education and research, popularly known as NIPERs, and upgrading 7 existing ones. It will also create a network of 1,000 accredited India clinical trials sites. We propose to strengthen the Central Drug Standard Control Organization to meet global standards and approve timeframes through and approval timeframes through a dedicated scientific review cadre and specialists. India's semiconductor mission 1.0 expanded India's semiconductor sector capabilities. Building on this, we will launch ISM 2.0 to produce equipment and materials, design full-stack Indian IP, and fortify supply chains. We will also focus on industry-led research and training centers to develop technology and skilled workforce. The Electronics Components Manufacturing Scheme, launched in April 2025, with an outlay of 22,919 crores, already has investment commitments at double the targets. We propose to increase the outlay to 40,000 crores to capitalize on this momentum. A scheme for rare earth permanent magnets was launched in 2025 November. We now propose to support the mineral-rich states of Odisha, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu to establish dedicated rare earth corridors to promote mining, processing, research, and manufacturing. To enhance domestic chemical production and reduction import dependency and reduce import dependency, we will launch a scheme to support states in establishing 3 dedicated chemical parks through challenge route on a cluster-based plug-and-play model. Strong capital goods. Strong capital goods capability is a determinant of productivity and quality across different sectors. Towards building this capacity, I propose the following. High-tech tool rooms will be established by central public sector enterprises at 2 locations as digitally enabled automated service bureaus that locally design, test, and manufacture high-precision components at scale and at lower cost. 2. A scheme for enhancement of construction and infrastructure equipments will be introduced to strengthen domestic manufacturing of high value and technologically advanced CIE. This can range from lifts in a multi-storied apartment or firefighting equipment in multiplexes, large or small, and to tunnel boring equipments for building metros and high-altitude roads. I also propose a scheme for container manufacturing to create a globally competitive container manufacturing ecosystem with a budgetary allocation of 10,000 crores over a 5-year period. For the labor-intensive textile sector, I propose an integrated program with 5 subparts. 1. The National Fiber Scheme for self-reliance in natural fibers, such as silk, wool, and jute. man-made fibers, and new age fibers. Textile expansion and employment scheme to modernize traditional clusters with capital support for machinery, technology upgradation, and common testing and certification centers. 3. The National Handloom and Handicraft Program to integrate and strengthen existing schemes and ensure targeted support for weavers and artisans. Tex Eco Initiative to promote globally competitive and sustainable textiles and apparels. Samarth 2.0 to modernize the upgrade the textile skilling ecosystem through collaboration with industry and academic institutions. Further, I propose to set up mega textile parks in challenge mode. They can also focus on bringing value addition to technical textiles. I propose to launch the Mahatma Gandhi Gram Swaraj initiative to strengthen khadi, handloom, and handicrafts. This will help in global market linkage and branding. It will streamline and support training, skilling, quality of process, and production. This will benefit our weavers, village industries, one district, one product ODOP initiative, and also our rural youth. India has the potential to emerge as a global hub for high quality, affordable sports goods. I propose a dedicated initiative for sports goods that will promote manufacturing, research, and innovation in equipment design as well as material sciences. Rejuvenation of legacy industrial clusters. I propose to introduce a scheme to revive 200 legacy industrial clusters to improve their cost competitiveness and efficiency through infrastructure and technology upgradation. Creating champion SMEs and supporting micro enterprises. Recognizing MSMEs as a vital engine of growth, I propose a three-pronged approach to help them grow as champions. Equity support. I propose to introduce a dedicated 10,000 crores SME growth fund to create future champions, incentivizing enterprises based on select criteria. I also propose to top up the Self-Reliant India Fund set up in 2021 with 2,000 crores to continue support to micro enterprises and maintain their access to risk capital. Liquidity support. With TREDS, more than 7 lakh crore has been made available to MSMEs. To leverage its full potential, I propose 4 measures. 1. Mandate TREDS as the transaction settlement platform for all purchases from MSMEs by CPSEs, serving as a benchmark for other corporates. 2. Introduce a credit guarantee support mechanism through CGT-MSE for invoice discounting on TREDS platform. 3. Link GEM with TREDS for sharing information with financiers about government purchases from MSMEs, encouraging cheaper and quicker financing. 4. Introduce TREDS receivables as asset-backed securities, helping develop a secondary market, enhancing liquidity and settlement of transactions. Professional support. Government will facilitate professional institutions such as the ICAI, ICSI, ICMAI to design short-term modular courses and practical tools to develop a cadre of corporate mitras, especially in Tier 2 and Tier 3 towns. These accredited para-professionals will help MSMEs meet compliance requirements at affordable costs. Infrastructure. During this past decade, our government has undertaken several initiatives for large-scale enhancement of public infrastructure, including through new financing instruments such as Infrastructure Investment Trust (InvITs) and Real Estate Investment Trust (REITs), and institutions like NIIF and NABFID. We shall continue to focus on developing infrastructure in cities with over 5 lakh population, that is Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, which have expanded to become growth centers. Public capital expenditure has increased manifold from 2 lakh crore in 2014-15 to allocation of 11.2 lakh crore in BE 25-26. In this coming year, that is financial year 2026-27, I propose to increase it to 12.2 lakh crores to continue the momentum. To strengthen the confidence of private developers regarding risks during infrastructure development and construction phase, I propose to set up an infrastructure risk guarantee fund to provide prudentially calibrated partial credit guarantee to lenders. Over the years, REITs have emerged as a successful instrument for asset monetization. I propose to accelerate recycling of significant real estate assets of the CPSEs through the setting up of dedicated REITs. To promote environmentally sustainable movement of cargo, I propose to 1. Establish new dedicated freight corridors connecting Dankuni in the east to Surat in the west. Operationalize 20 new national waterways over the next 5 years. Starting with National Waterways 5 in Orissa to connect mineral-rich areas of Talcher and Angul and industrial centers like Kalinga Nagar to the ports of Paradeep and Dhamra. Training institutes will be set up as regional centers of excellence for development of required manpower for these waterways. This will benefit youth in the entire stretch of the waterways to train and acquire skills. Further, a ship repair ecosystem catering to inland waterways will also be set up at Varanasi and Patna. And C, launch a coastal cargo promotion scheme for incentivizing a modal shift from rail to road to increase the share of inland waterways and coastal shipping from 6% to 12% by 2047. To enhance last mile and remote connectivity and promote tourism, I propose to give incentives to indigenize manufacturing of seaplanes. A seaplane VGF scheme will be also introduced to provide support for operations. Carbon capture, utilization and storage. Aligning with the roadmap launched in December 2025, the carbon capture, utilization and storage technologies at scale will achieve higher readiness and in end-use application across 5 industrial sectors, including power, steel, cement, refineries, and chemicals. An outlay of 20,000 crore is proposed over the next 5 years for this purpose. City economic regions. Cities are India's engines of growth, innovation, and opportunities. We shall now focus on Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, and even temple towns, which need modern infrastructure and basic amenities. This budget aims to further amplify the potential of cities to deliver the economic power of agglomerations by mapping city economic regions based on their specific growth drivers. An allocation of 5,000 crore per CER over 5 years is proposed for implementing their plans through a challenge mode with a reform-cum-result-based financing mechanism. In order to promote environmentally sustainable passenger systems, we will develop 7 high-speed rail corridors between cities as growth connectors, namely Mumbai to Pune, Pune to Hyderabad, Hyderabad to Bengaluru, Hyderabad to Chennai, Chennai to Bengaluru, Delhi to Varanasi, Varanasi to Siliguri. Financial sector. The Indian banking sector today is characterized by strong balance sheet, historic highs in profitability, improved asset quality, and coverage exceeding 98% of villages in the country. At this juncture, we are well placed to futuristically evaluate the measures needed to continue on the path of reform-led growth of this sector. I propose setting up a high-level committee on banking for Vikasit Bharat. High-level committee on banking for Vikasit Bharat to comprehensively review the sector and align it with India's next phase of growth, while safeguarding financial stability, inclusion, and consumer protection. The vision for NBFCs for Vikasit Bharat has been outlined with clear targets for credit disbursement and technology adoption in order to achieve scale and improve efficiency in the public sector NBFCs. As a first step, it is proposed to restructure the Power Finance Corporation and Rural Electrification Corporation. I propose a comprehensive review of the foreign exchange management non-debt instruments rules to create a more contemporary, user-friendly framework for foreign investments consistent with India's evolving economic priorities. Corporate bond market. I propose to introduce a market-making framework with suitable access to funds and derivatives on corporate bond indices. I also propose to introduce total return swaps on corporate bonds. Municipal bonds. To encourage the issuance of municipal bonds of higher value by larger cities, I propose an incentive of 100 crore rupees for a single bond issuance. 100 crore rupees for a single bond issuance of more than 1,000 crore. The current scheme under Amrit which incentivizes issuances up to 200 crores only, will also continue to support smaller and medium towns. That will also continue to support the smaller and medium towns. Ease of doing business. Individual persons resident outside India, PROI, will be permitted to invest in equity instruments of listed Indian companies through the Portfolio Investment Scheme. It is also proposed to increase the investment limit for an individual PROI under the scheme from 5% to 10%, with an overall investment limit for all individual PROIs to 24% from the current 10%. Emerging technologies including AI. 21st century is technology driven. Adoption of technology is for the benefit of all people. Farmers in the field, women in STEM, youth keen to upskill, and Divyangjan to access newer opportunities. The government has taken several steps to support new technologies through AI Mission, National Quantum Mission, Anusandhan National Research Fund, and Research and Development and Innovation Fund. Our second kartavya is to fulfill aspirations and build capacities. Close to 25 crore individuals have come out of multi-dimensional poverty through a decade of our government's sustained and reform-oriented efforts. Our government has therefore decided to place a renewed emphasis on the service sector to provide a pathway to fulfilling aspirations of a youthful India with the following measures. I propose to set up a high-powered education to employment and enterprises standing committee to recommend measures that focus on services sector as a core driver of Vikasit Bharat. This will make us a global leader in services with a 10% global share by 2047. The committee will prioritize areas to optimize the potential for growth, employment, and exports. They will also assess the impact of emerging technologies, including AI, on jobs and skill requirements and propose measures thereof. To create a range of skilled career pathways, a new range of skilled career pathways for our youth, I propose interventions in the following sectors. Health. Existing institutions for allied health professionals will be upgraded and new AHP institutions established in private and government sectors. This will cover 10 selected disciplines, including optometry, radiology, anesthesia, OT technology, applied psychology and behavioral health, and add 1 lakh AHPs over the next 5 years. A strong care system covering geriatric and allied care services will be built. A variety of NSQF-aligned programs will be developed to train multi-skilled caregivers, combining core care and allied skills such as wellness, yoga, and operation of medical assistive devices. In the coming year, 1.5 lakh caregivers will be trained. Hubs for medical value tourism. To promote India as a hub for medical tourism services, I propose to launch a scheme to support states in establishing 5 regional medical hubs in partnership with the private sector. These hubs will serve as integrated healthcare complexes that combine medical, educational, and research facilities. They will have Ayush centers, medical value tourism facilitation centers, and infrastructure for diagnostics, post-care, and rehabilitation. These hubs will provide diverse opportunities, job opportunities for health professionals, including doctors and AHPs. Ancient Indian yoga, already respected in several parts of the world, was given a mass global recognition when Honorable Prime Minister took it to the UN. Post-COVID, Ayurveda gained a similar global acceptance and recognition. Exporting quality Ayurveda products helps farmers who grow the herbs and youth who process the products. To meet growing global demand, a few more steps are being taken. I propose to 1. set up 3 new All India Institutes of Ayurveda. 2. Upgrade Ayush pharmacies and drug testing labs for higher standards of certification ecosystem and make available more skilled personnel. 3. Upgrade the WHO Global Traditional Medicine Center in Jamnagar to bolster evidence-based research, training and awareness for traditional medicine. Animal husbandry. Livestock contributes to close to 16% of farm income, including of poor and marginal households. To scale up availability of veterinary professionals by more than 20,000, I propose to roll out a loan-linked capital subsidy support scheme for establishment of veterinary and para-veterinary colleges, veterinary hospitals, diagnostic laboratories, and breeding facilities in private sector. Collaboration between Indian and foreign institutions will also be facilitated. Orange economy. India's animation, visual effects, gaming and comics sector, AVGC sector, is a growing industry projected to require 2 million professionals by 2030. I propose to support the Indian Institute of Creative Technologies, Mumbai, in setting up AVGC content creator labs in 15,000 secondary schools all over the country and 500 colleges. The Indian design industry is expanding rapidly, and yet there is a shortage of Indian designers. I propose to establish, through Challenge Route, a new National Institute of Design to boost design education and development in the eastern region of India. Education. Our government will support states through Challenge Route in creating 5 university townships in the vicinity of major industrial and logistics corridors. These planned academic zones will host multiple universities, colleges and research institutions, skill centers and residential complexes. In higher education, STEM institutions, prolonged hours of study and laboratory work pose some challenges for girl students. Through VGF, Viability Gap Funding and capital support, 1 girls' hostel will be established in every district. To promote astrophysics and astronomy via immersive experiences, 4 telescope infrastructure facilities will be set up or upgraded. The National Large Solar Telescope, the National Large Optical Infrared Telescope, the Himalayan Chandra Telescope, and the Cosmos 2 Planetarium. Tourism. The tourism sector has the potential to play a large role in the employment generation, forex earnings, and expanding the local economy. I propose to set up a National Institute of Hospitality by upgrading the existing National Council for Hotel Management and Catering Technology. It will function as a bridge between academia, industry, and government. I also propose a pilot scheme for upskilling 10,000 guides in 20 iconic tourist sites through a standardized, high-quality, 12-week training course in hybrid mode in collaboration with the Indian Institute of Management. A national destination digital knowledge grid will be established to digitally document all places of significance, cultural, spiritual, and heritage. This initiative will create a new ecosystem of jobs for local researchers, historians, content creators, and technology partners. India has the potential and opportunity to offer world-class trekking and hiking experience. We will develop ecologically sustainable mountain trails in Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Jammu Kashmir. Also in Araku Valley in the Eastern Ghats and Podigai Malai in the Western Ghats. Turtle trails along key nesting sites in the coastal areas of Odisha, Karnataka, and Kerala. And 3 bird watching trails along the Pulikat Lake in Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu. It's on the border. Under the visionary leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, we established the International Big Cat Alliance in 2024. This year, India is hosting the first ever Global Big Cat Summit, where heads of governments and ministers from 95 range countries will deliberate on collective strategies for conservation. Heritage and culture tourism. I propose to develop 15 archaeological sites, including Lothal, Dolavira, Rakigadi, Adichanallur, Saranath, Hastinapur, and Leh Palace into vibrant experiential cultural destinations. Excavated landscapes will be open to the public through curated walkways. Immersive storytelling skills and technologies will be introduced to help conservation labs, interpretation centers, and guides. The sports sector provides multiple means of employment, skilling, and job opportunities. Taking forward the systematic nurturing of sports talent, which is set in motion through the Khelo India program earlier, I propose to launch a Khelo India mission to transform the sports sector over the next decade. The mission will facilitate an integrated talent development pathway supported by training centers, which are foundational, intermediate, and elite levels. B, systematic development of coaches and support staff. C, integration of sports science and technology. D, competitions and leagues to promote sports culture and provide platforms. And E, development of sports infrastructure for training and competition. Our third Kartavya aligns with our vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas towards Vikasit Bharat. This requires targeted efforts for 1, increasing farmer incomes through productivity enhancement and entrepreneurship, with special attention to small and marginal farmers. B, empowering Divyangjan through access to livelihood opportunities, training, and high-quality assistive devices. C, empowering the vulnerable to access mental health and trauma care. D, focus on the Purvodaya states and the Northeast region to accelerate development and employment opportunities. Fisheries. We will undertake initiatives for integrated development of 500 reservoirs and Amrit Sarovars. 2, strengthen the fisheries value chain in coastal areas and enable market linkages involving startups and women-led groups together with fish farmer producer organizations. Animal husbandry. To provide quality employment opportunities in rural and peri-urban areas, we will support the animal husbandry sector in entrepreneurship development through A, credit-linked subsidy program, B, scaling up and modernization of livestock enterprises, C. Enhance creation of livestock, dairy and poultry. I'll read that again. Enhance creation of livestock, dairy and poultry focused integrated value chains. And D. Encourage creation of livestock farmer producer organizations. High value agriculture. To diversify farm outputs, increase productivity, enhance farmers' incomes, and create new employment opportunities, we will support high-value crops such as coconut, sandalwood, cocoa, cashew in the coastal areas, agar trees in northeast, and nuts such as almonds, walnuts, and pine nuts in our hilly regions. All of them will be supported. India is the world's largest producer of coconuts. About 30 million people, including nearly 10 million farmers, depend on coconuts for their livelihood. To further enhance competitiveness in coconut production, I propose a coconut promotion scheme to increase production and enhance productivity through various interventions, including replacing and non-productive trees with new saplings or plants or varieties in major coconut growing states. A dedicated program is proposed for Indian cashew and cocoa to make India self-reliant in raw cashew and coconut production and processing, enhance export competitiveness, and transform Indian cashew and Indian cocoa into premium global brands by 2030. Sandalwood. Sandalwood is closely linked to India's social and cultural heritage. Our government will partner with state governments to promote focused cultivation and post-harvest processing to restore the glory of the Indian sandalwood ecosystem, to rejuvenate old, low-yielding orchards, and expand high-density cultivation of walnuts, almonds, and pine nuts. We will support a dedicated program to enhance farmer incomes and in bringing value addition by engaging youth. Bharat Vistar, that is virtually integrated system to access agricultural resources. I propose to launch Bharat Vistar, a multilingual AI tool that shall integrate the AgriStack portals and the ICAR package on agricultural practices with AI systems. This will enhance farm productivity, enable better decisions for farmers, and reduce risk by providing customized advisory support. She Marts for rural women-led enterprises. Building on the success of Lakpati Didi program, I propose to help women take the next step from credit-linked livelihoods to being owners of enterprises. Self-help entrepreneur, She Marts will be set up as community-owned retail outlets within the cluster-level federations through enhanced and innovative financing instruments. Empowering Divyangjan. Divyangjan Kaushal Yojana. Information technology, AVGC sectors, hospitality and food and beverages sectors often offer task-oriented and process-driven roles which are suitable for Divyangjan. We will ensure dignified livelihood opportunities through industry-relevant and customized training specific to each Divyangjan group. Divyang Sahara Yojana. Timely access to high-quality assistive devices for all eligible Divyangjan is a fundamental need. I propose to 1. Support the Artificial Limbs Manufacturing Corporation of India, ALIMCO, to set up and to scale up production of assistive devices, invest in R&D and AI integration, strengthen PM Divyasha Kendras, and support setting up of assistive technology marts as modern retail style centers where Divyangjan and senior citizens can see, try and purchase assistive products. Reaffirming our commitment to mental health and trauma care. There are no national institutes for mental health care in North India. We will therefore set up a NIMHANS 2 and also upgrade national mental health institutes in Ranchi and in Tezpur as regional apex institutions. Emergencies expose families, particularly the poor and vulnerable, to unexpected expenditure. We will strengthen and increase these capacities by 50% in district hospitals by establishing emergency and trauma care centers. Focus on Purvodaya states and northeastern regions. Purvodaya, I propose the development of an integrated East Coast industrial corridor with a well-connected node at Durgapur, creation of 5 tourism destinations in 5 Purvodaya states, and the provision of 4,000 e-buses. Buddhist sites in northeastern region. The northeastern region is a civilizational confluence of Theravada and Mahayana or Vajrayana traditions. I propose to launch a scheme for development of Buddhist circuits in Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Assam, Manipur, Mizoram, and Tripura. The scheme will cover preservation of temples and monasteries, pilgrimage interpretation centers, connectivity, and pilgrim amenities. 16th Finance Commission. On 17th November 2025, the 16th Finance Commission submitted its report to the President. As mandated under Article 281 of the Constitution, the government is to lay the report along with the explanatory memorandum on the action taken report on the recommendations of the Commission in Parliament, which, Sir, Honourable Speaker, you've allowed me to do at the commencement of this session. The government has accepted the recommendation of the Commission to retain the vertical share of devolution at 41%. As recommended by the Commission, I have provided 1.4 lakh crores of rupees to the states for the year 2027 as Finance Commission grants. These include rural and urban local body and disaster management grants. Fiscal consolidation. Government has been delivering on our fiscal commitments consistently without compromising on social needs. To strive towards accepted standards of fiscal management in Budget 25-26, I had indicated that the central government would target reaching a debt to GDP ratio of 50 plus or minus 1% by 2030-31. In line with this, the debt to GDP ratio is estimated to be 55.6% of GDP in BE 26-27. compared to 56.1% of GDP in RE 25-26. A declining debt to GDP ratio will gradually free up resources for priority sector lending and expenditure by reducing the outgo on interest payments. One of the main operational instruments for debt targeting is the fiscal deficit. I am happy to inform this august House that I fulfilled my commitment made in 2021-2022 to reduce fiscal deficit below 4.5% of GDP by 25-26. In RE 25-26, the fiscal deficit has been estimated at par with BE of 2025-26 at 4.4% of GDP. In line with the new fiscal prudence path of debt consolidation, the fiscal deficit in BE 26-27 is estimated to be 4.3% of the GDP. The revised estimates of the non-debt receipts are 34 lakh crore rupees, of which the centre's net tax receipts are 26.7 lakh crore. The revised estimate of the total expenditure is 49.6 lakh crore rupees, of which the capital expenditure is about 11 lakh crores. Budget estimates 2026 to 2027. Coming to 26-27, the non-debt receipts and the total expenditure are estimated as 36.5 lakh crore and 53.5 lakh crore respectively. The centre's net tax receipts are estimated at 28.7 lakh crore rupees. To finance the fiscal deficit, the net market borrowings from dated securities are estimated at 11.7 lakh crore rupees. The balance financing is expected to come from small savings and other sources. The gross market borrowings are estimated at 17.2 lakh crore rupees. I'll now move to Part B. Part B, direct taxes. Honorable Speaker, sir, I now present my proposals on direct taxes. New Income Tax Act. In July 2024, I announced a comprehensive review of the Income Tax Act 1961. This was completed in a record time, and the Income Tax Act 2025 will come into effect from 1st April 2026. The simplified income tax rules and forms will be notified shortly, giving adequate time to taxpayers to acquaint themselves with its requirements. The forms have been redesigned such that ordinary citizens can comply without difficulty. Ease of living. I propose that any interest awarded by the Motor Accident Claims Tribunal to a natural person will be exempt from income tax, and any TDS on this account will be done away with. I propose to reduce TCS rate on the sale of overseas tour program package from the current 5% and 20% to 2% without any stipulation of amount. I propose to reduce TCS rate for pursuing education and for medical purposes under the Liberalized Remittance Scheme, popularly known as LRS, from 5% to 2%. Supply of manpower services is proposed to be specifically brought within the ambit of payment to contractors for the purpose of TDS to avoid ambiguity. Thus, TDS on these services will be at the rate of either 1% or 2% only. I propose a scheme for small taxpayers, wherein a rule-based automated process will enable obtaining a lower or nil deduction certificate instead of filing an application with the assessing officer. For the ease of taxpayer holding securities in multiple companies, I propose to enable depositories to accept Form 15G or Form 15H from the investor and provide it directly to various relevant companies. I propose to extend time available for revising returns from 31st December to up to 31st March with the payment of a nominal fee. I also propose to stagger the timeline for filing of tax returns. Individuals with ITR 1 and ITR 2 returns will continue to file till 31st July, and non-audit business cases or trusts are proposed to be allowed time till 31st August. TDS on sale of immovable property by a non-resident is proposed to be deducted and deposited through resident buyers and his or her PAN-based challan instead of requiring a TAN, which is a temporary accounting number. To address practical issues of small taxpayers like students, young professionals, tech employees, relocated NRIs, and such others, I propose to introduce a one-time 6-month foreign asset disclosure scheme for these taxpayers to disclose income or assets below a certain size. This scheme would be applicable for two categories of taxpayers, namely A, who did not disclose their overseas income or assets, and B, who disclosed their overseas income and or paid due tax but could not declare the asset acquired. For category A, the limit of undisclosed income or asset is proposed to be up to 1 crore rupees. They need to pay 30% of fair market value of asset or 30% of undisclosed income as tax and 30% as additional income tax in lieu of penalty, and would thereby get immunity from prosecution. For category B, asset value is proposed to be up to 5 crore rupees. Here, immunity from both penalty and prosecution will be available with a payment of fee of 1 lakh rupees. Rationalizing penalty and prosecution. Multiplicity of proceedings are hindrance to the ease of doing business. I propose to integrate assessment and penalty proceedings by way of a common order for both. There will be no interest liability on the taxpayer on the penalty amount for the period of appeal before the first appellate authority, irrespective of the outcome of appeal process. Further, quantum of prepayment is being reduced from 20% to 10% and will continue to be calculated only on core tax demand. As an additional measure for reducing litigation, I propose to allow taxpayers to update their returns even after reassessment proceedings have been initiated, and an additional 10% tax rate over and above the rate applicable for the relevant year. The assessing officer will then use only this updated return in his proceedings. There is already a framework for immunity from penalty and prosecution in the cases of underreporting. I propose to apply this framework for immunity to misreporting too. However, in such a case, the taxpayer will need to pay 100% of the tax amount as an additional income tax over and above the tax and interest due. Penalties for certain technical defaults, such as failure to get accounts audited, non-furnishing of transfer pricing audit report, and default in furnishing statement for financial transactions, are proposed to be converted into fee. I propose to rationalize prosecution framework under Income Tax Act while maintaining a careful balance for deterrence in some serious offence. Non-production of books of account and documents and requirement of TDS payment where payment is made in kind are being decriminalized. Further, minor offences will attract fine only. The remaining prosecutions will be graded commensurate with the quantum of offence. They will entail only simple imprisonment with maximum imprisonment reduced to 2 years and power to courts to convert even those into fines. There is no penalty. There is no penalty presently for non-disclosure of non-immovable foreign assets with aggregate value less than 20 lakh rupees. I propose to also provide them with immunity from prosecution with retrospective effect from 1/10/2024. Cooperatives. Deduction is already allowed to a primary cooperative society engaged in supplying milk, oilseeds, fruits or vegetables raised or grown by its members. I propose to extend this deduction to also include supply of cattle feed and cotton seed produced by its members. I propose to allow inter-cooperative society dividend income as deduction under the new tax regime to the extent it is further distributed to its members. I further propose to allow exemption for a period of 3 years to dividend income received by a notified national cooperative federation on their investments made in companies up to 31/1/2026. This exemption would be allowed only for dividends further distributed to its member cooperatives. Supporting IT sector as India's growth engine. India is a global leader in software development services, IT-enabled services, knowledge process outsourcing services, and contract R&D services relating to software development. These businesses and their segments are quite interconnected with each other. All these services are proposed to be clubbed under a single category of information technology services with a common safe harbor margin of 15.5% applicable to all. The threshold for availing safe harbor for IT services is being enhanced substantially from 300 crore rupees to 2,000 crore rupees. Safe harbor for IT services shall be approved by an automated rule-driven process without any need for tax officer to examine and accept the application. Once applied by an IT services company, the same safe harbor can be continued for a period of 5 years at a stretch at its choice. For IT services companies who want to conclude advanced pricing agreement, APA, I propose to fast-track unilateral APA process for IT services and endeavor to conclude it within a period of 2 years. The period of 2 years can be extended by a further period of 6 months on taxpayers' request. I propose to extend the facility of modified returns available to the entity entering APA to its associated entities also. Attracting global business and investment. Recognizing the need to enable critical infrastructure and boost investment in data centers, I propose to provide tax holiday till 2047 to any foreign company that provides cloud services to customers globally by using data center services from India. It will, however, need to provide services to Indian customers through an Indian reseller entity. I also propose to provide a safe harbor of 15% on cost in case the company providing data center services from India is a related entity. To harness the efficiency of just-in-time logistics for electronic manufacturing, I propose to provide safe harbor to non-residents for component warehousing in a bonded warehouse at a profit margin of 2% of the invoice value. The resultant tax of about 0.7% will be much lower than in competing jurisdictions. To provide fillip to toll manufacturing in India, I propose to provide exemption from income tax for 5 years to any non-resident who provides capital goods, equipment, or tooling to any toll manufacturer in a bonded zone. To encourage vast pool of global talent to work in India for a longer period of time, I propose to provide exemption to global, non-India sourced income of a non-resident expert for a stay period of 5 years under notified schemes. I propose to provide exemption from minimum alternate tax, the MAT, to all non-residents who pay tax on presumptive basis. Tax administration. I propose to constitute a joint committee of Ministry of Corporate Affairs and Central Board of Direct Taxes for incorporating the requirements of income computation and disclosure standards, the ICDS, in the Indian Accounting Standards Ind AS itself. Separate accounting requirement based on ICDS will be done away with from the tax year 27-28. To support Prime Minister Modi's vision of homegrown accounting and advisory firms to become global leaders, I propose to rationalize the definition of accountant for the purposes of safe harbor rules. Other tax proposals. Change in taxation of buyback was brought in to address the improper use of buyback route by promoters. In the interest of minority shareholders, I propose to tax buyback for all types of shareholders as capital gains. However, to disincentivize misuse of tax arbitrage, promoters will pay an additional buyback tax. This will make effective tax 22% for corporate promoters. For non-corporate promoters, the effective tax will be 30%. TCS rate for sellers of specific goods, namely alcoholic liquor, scrap, and minerals, will be rationalized to 2%, and that on tender leaves will be reduced from 5% to 2%. I propose to raise the STT on futures to 0.05% from the present 0.02%. STT on options premium and exercise of options are both proposed to be raised to 0.15% from the present rate of 0.1% and 0.125% respectively. We reformed the taxation landscape for corporates in 2019 by providing them a simplified regime with lower tax rate so that they could productively focus on business rather than on claim of deductions and exemptions. To encourage companies to shift to the new regime, set off of brought forward MAT credit, minimum alternate tax credit, is proposed to be allowed to companies only in the new regime. Set off using available MAT credit is proposed to be allowed to an extent of 1/4 of the tax liability in the new regime. MAT is proposed to be made final tax, so there will be no further credit accumulation from 1st April 2026. In line with this change, the rate of final tax is being reduced to 14% from the current MAT rate of 15%. The brought forward MAT credit of taxpayers accumulated till 30th March 2026 will continue to be available to them for set-off as above. Indirect taxes. I shall now take up proposals related to indirect taxes. My proposals for customs and central excise aim to further simplify the tariff structure, support domestic manufacturing, promote export competitiveness, and correct inversion in duty. To continue weeding out long-continuing customs duty exemptions, I propose to remove certain exemptions on items which are being manufactured in India or where the imports are negligible. Similarly, to further simplify the process of ascertaining the rate of duty applicable on a particular item, I propose to incorporate certain effective rates in various customs notifications to the tariff schedule itself. I shall now take up sector-specific proposals. Promotion of exports of marine, leather, and textile products. I propose to increase the limit for duty-free imports of specified inputs used for processing seafoods for export from the current 1% to 3% of FOB value of the previous year's export turnover. I also propose to allow duty-free imports of specified inputs, which is currently available for exports of leather or synthetic footwear, to exports of shoe uppers as well. I propose to extend the time period for export of final product from the existing 6 months to 1 year for exporters of leather or textile garments, leather or synthetic footwear, and other leather products. Energy transition and security. I propose to extend the basic customs duty exemption given to capital goods used for manufacturing lithium-ion cells for batteries to those used for manufacturing lithium-ion cells for battery energy storage systems also. I propose to exempt basic customs duty on import of sodium antimonate for use in manufacture of solar glass. Nuclear power. I propose to extend the existing basic customs duty exemption on imports of goods required for nuclear power projects till the year 2035 and expand it for all nuclear plants irrespective of their capacity. Critical minerals. It is proposed to provide basic customs duty exemption to the import of capital goods required for the processing of critical minerals in India. Biogas blended CNG. I propose to exclude the entire value of biogas while calculating the central excise duty payable on biogas blended CNG. Civil and defense aviation. I propose to exempt basic customs duty on components and parts required for the manufacture of civilian training and other aircrafts. It is proposed to exempt basic customs duty on raw materials imported for the manufacture of parts of aircraft to be used in maintenance, repair, or overall requirements by units in the defense sector. Electronics. To deepen value addition in the consumer electronics sector, I propose to exempt basic customs duty on specified parts used in the manufacture of microwave ovens. Special economic zone. To address the concerns arising about utilization of capacity by manufacturing units in the special economic zones due to global trade disruptions, I propose as a special one-time measure to facilitate sales by eligible manufacturing units in SEZs to the domestic tariff area at concessional rates of duty. The quantity of such sales will be limited to a prescribed proportion of their exports. Necessary regulatory changes will be undertaken to operationalize the measures while ensuring level playing field for the units working in the DTA. Ease of living. To rationalize the customs duty structure for goods imported for personal use, I propose to reduce the tariff rate on all dutiable goods imported for personal use from 20% to 10%. To provide relief to patients, particularly those suffering from cancer, I propose to exempt basic customs duty on 17 drugs or medicines. I propose also to add 7 more rare diseases for the purposes of exempting import duties on personal imports of drugs, medicines, and food for special medical purposes used in their treatment. Customs process. India's role and share in the global trade is poised for a major leap in line with our ambition and journey towards Vikasit Bharat. In this regard, I propose many measures for custom processes to have minimal intervention for smoother and faster movement of goods and greater certainty to the trade. Trust-based systems. I propose to enhance duty deferral period for Tier 2 and Tier 3 authorized economic operators, known as AEOs, from 15 days to 30 days. I propose to provide eligible manufacturer importers the same duty deferral facility. This should encourage them to get themselves accredited as a full-fledged Tier 3 AEO in due course. To provide greater certainty and for better business planning, I propose to extend validity period of advance ruling binding on customs from the present 3 years to 5 years. In the spirit of the whole of government approach, government agencies will be encouraged to leverage AEO accreditation for preferential treatment in clearing their cargo. Regular importers with trusted long-standing supply chains will be recognized in the risk system so that the need for verification of their cargo every time can be minimized. Export cargo using electronic sealing. Export cargo using electronic sealing will be provided through clearance from the factory premises to the ship. For import of goods not needing any compliance, filing of bill of entry by a trusted importer and arrival of goods will automatically notify customs for completing their clearance formalities. This will enable goods to be released immediately on arrival. The customs warehouse framework will be transformed into a warehouse operator-centric system with a self-declarations, electronic tracking, and risk-based audit. These reforms will move away from the current system of officer-dependent approvals and reduce transaction delays and compliance costs. Ease of doing business. Approvals required for cargo clearance from various government agencies will be seamlessly processed through a single and interconnected digital window by the end of the financial year. Processes involved in clearance of food, drugs, plant, and animal and wildlife products, accounting for about 70% of interdicted cargo, will be operationalized on this system by April 2026 itself. For goods not having any compliance requirement, clearance will be done by customs immediately after online registration is completed by the importer, subject to the payment of duty. Customs integrated system will be rolled out in 2 years as a single integrated and scalable platform for all customs processes. Utilization of non-intrusive scanning with advanced imaging and AI technology for risk assessment will be expanded in a phased manner with the objective to scan every container across all the major ports. New export opportunities to support Indian fishermen to fully harness the economic value of marine resources beyond our territorial waters. The following measures will be taken. A. Fish catch by an Indian fishing vessel in exclusive economic zone or on the high seas will be made free of duty. Landing of such fish on foreign port will be treated as export of goods. Safeguards will be put in place to prevent misuse during fish catch, transit, or transshipment. to support aspirations of India's small businesses, artisans, and startups to access global markets through e-commerce, I am pleased to announce complete removal of the current value cap of 10 lakh rupees per consignment on courier exports. In addition, handling of rejected and returned consignments will be improved with effective use of technology for identifying such consignments. I propose to revise provisions governing baggage clearance during international travel to address genuine concerns of passengers. The revised rules will enhance duty-free allowances in line with the present-day travel realities and provide clarity in temporary carriage of goods brought in or taken out. There are honest taxpayers who are willing to settle disputes by paying all their dues, but they get deterred due to negative connotation associated with penalty. They will now be able to close cases by paying an additional amount in lieu of penalty. Honorable Speaker, sir, with this, I commend the budget to this august House. Jai Hind. One and a half hours.
आइटम नंबर 3 माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी।
Item number 2, sir.
3
Sir, with your permission, I rise to lay on the table of the following statements under Section 3(1) of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act of 2003. Medium-term fiscal policy, fiscal policy strategy statement, and macroeconomic framework statement.
आइटम नंबर 4 माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी।
Sir, with your permission, I move for leave to introduce the Finance Bill 2026.
प्रश्न ये कि विधेयक को पुनर्स्थापित करने की अनुमति प्रदान की जाए। जो सदस्य इस पक्ष में हाँ गए, जो सदस्य विरोध में ना गए, मेरे विचार में निर्णय हाँ वालों के पक्ष में, हाँ वालों के पक्ष में अनुमति प्रदान की जाती है। माननीय मंत्री जी, अब विधेयक पूरे स्थापित करें।
Sir, I introduce the bill.
माननीय सदस्यगण, आपको सूचित किया जाता है कि माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी के बजट भाषण की कॉपी पब्लिकेशन काउंटर पर ली जाती है। बजट भाषण और बजट से संबंधित दस्तावेज आपके मोबाइल फोन और मेंबर पोर्टल्स पर ही उपलब्ध है। सभा की कार्रवाई कल सोमवार दिनांक 2 फरवरी 2026 को प्राप्त 11 बजे तक के लिए स्थगित की जाती है।
Her Excellency Ms. Ursula von der Leyen.
Right, so the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has presented her 9th budget, and honestly, the big bang reforms that we were expecting, there seems to be a little bit of underwhelmment there because there is continuity to what the government has been doing when it comes to their finances. The fiscal deficit is seen a tad lowered at 4.3% for this year, and we are also seeing capex spending keeping up the momentum marginally higher than last year. Though the industry was expecting a figure closer to about 14 lakh crores, is coming closer to 12.2 lakh crore rupees. But unlike last time, the big hitting tax announcements have been missing, and so there is a little bit of underwhelmment there. There was a lot of hope from the stock market's perspective that there will be some rationalization in the long-term capital gains regime. that has not been announced. Slightly disappointing has been an increase in the STT. People are expecting that, the STT should be done away. It was seen as a temporary thing, but the STT on financial derivatives especially has been increased. So we are seeing some of the stock markets swiftly selling off because that has been construed as a disappointment. Some of the other announcements coming in, a lot of announcements for NRIs. And all right, so let's welcome in some experts who will help us break down the fine print and give us their initial reactions. We have Dr. Sumesh Kumar, economist and associate professor at International Institute of Health Management Research, joining us now. Dr. Sumesh Kumar, what do you make of the announcements made? We did see some announcements in creating AIMS, Ayush AIMS, some announcements for mental health. But can you read through the fine print and tell us what has been the emphasis in the healthcare region, especially for biopharmaceuticals? An allocation of 10,000 crores is very, very encouraging. So how do you see the announcements of the budget for your sector and overall?
Yes, thank you so much. And I think for health sector, this is a good budget, particularly pharma sector. We are already, pharma hub, and we are providing medicines to the rest of the world. And this will give more boost to the pharma sector in the country. And particularly, I am very happy that now government is thinking about the mental health as well. And the new institutions will be set up, which is very good. And mental health issues are increasing day by day. So serious steps need to be taken, and this is something very good that government is thinking in that direction. One more thing, and that is setting up 3 new medical institutions as well as the Ayurvedic medicines are concerned. Then boost to Ayush. This is something again welcoming step by the finance minister. And again, one more thing, increasing the capacity of district hospitals, which is again very good because the public health system somewhere the infrastructure need to be developed, the accessibility and affordability of drugs. I am very happy that cancer burden in India is very high, and day by day it is increasing. And now the cancer medicines and this critical
basic
medicines,
customs duty
yes,
for cancer, drugs for cancer care and 7 rare diseases. But the basic duty exemption is only for it being imported for personal use, not on a hospital or a pharmacy basis. What about the announcements coming in for medical tourism hubs? India is in any case doing very well. What do you think is the government's idea behind developing these hubs when the private sector is already, it's lucrative for them, so they do it. What outcome can we expect from these medical tourism hubs?
Yes, actually, there is a lot of potential in this sector. Though we are doing very good in that, but still the potential is there in medical tourism. We have best doctors, best corporate hospitals, and even the treatment cost in India is very less. So I think, again, welcoming step by the finance minister to develop these centers. One more thing that the clinical trials, 1,000 new centers will be developed. So research and development in health sector, again, this is very good. And overall, I think I would definitely like to see that overall expenditure as a percentage of GDP on health. So we are struggling with that from last, I think, more than a decade. So the need of affordability and accessibility of healthcare, which is very important. And yes, research and development in clinical trials, again, one good step.
Right. Stay with us, Dr. Sumesh Kumar. We are having with us in our studio Mr. Chandar Talreja, partner, Rialto Partners Alternative for Personal Taxation, and I would like to get your reaction. Now, last year, direct taxes was a huge hit with the rationalization in the slabs. This time, it seems कि जो विवाद होते थे उनको हम कम कर दिए, and it's just a continuation of removing the inefficiencies and the disputes. How much confidence does this give to individual taxpayers?
See, the aim she's put forward is that tax is no longer taxing. Okay, she wants to make it more user friendly, encourage compliance, give more flexibility. I'll put it that way. And if you see the number of changes which have been introduced, starting with you got the new income tax coming into picture from 1st April, she's announced it. And just to give you a kind of a demonstration as to what has been done in that tax. Presently, we had 819 sections. That is the plethora of sections we had. That has been reduced to 536. Chapter wise also, you had 47 chapters, which has been reduced to 23. So ease of reading, alignment of lot many sections, provisos has been done around that bit. Now what she said is for the resident taxpayers, we're going to introduce a special form around it, which will give you ease of, compliance in terms. Presently for the resident one, there's a plethora of, foreign asset reporting and all. She said we're going to neutralize that form and all. So bit of compliance over there.
It'll be easier filling that form.
Yes. Then you got TCS rates and all, especially for foreign tours and educational remittance and all. From 5%, she's brought it down to 2% and all.
In the LRS window.
Yeah, liberalized scheme and all. She's done that. Then we are looking at, in terms of the small taxpayers, we've got NRIs, in terms of young professional and all. What she said is, I'm going to open a one-time window for 6 months.
Foreign assets that you did not declare.
Yes, not declared. Over there also, she's put forward 2 things around it. That look, if you got income, foreign asset of the value of 1 crore and all, where the income has not been, declared, or the foreign asset also has not been declared, both, you got a, penalty of 30% over there, plus another 30% on the fair market value of the asset and all. That she'll, allow you to do that disclosure without prosecution. So, the fear of prosecution has been taken away.
For foreign assets.
It is there, it is there, in lot many provisions of using income tax, there is fear of prosecution. She's giving you one-time compliance window. Similarly, if you, pay the taxes and all, not declare the foreign asset, she's saying that, we are going to allow you to, do that and all, up to the, the value of 5 crores and all of the foreign asset, simply by paying a fee of 1 lakh rupees only. So that is, ensure the compliance. From a normal side, we've got a revised deadline, the revised return deadline is 31st December. That has been extended to 31st March by paying a nominal fee around that. So that is also, encouragement and all, because lot many, global resident and all, they claim foreign tax credit and their returns are stuck up in the overseas countries because they have not been finalized, and we can, claim the credit only, once the returns are finalized. So that is kind of a more flexibility around that bit. Okay. Updated return has also been introduced, saying that you can still file that updated return and the reassessment proceedings open and all, subject to payment of fee. So that is all encouraging. Other side, from an appeal side, what she said is that presently, if you go for appeal, you need to pay at least 20% of the demand.
Yeah, upfront.
To get the demand in abeyance and all. So what they're saying is that
to 10%
that has been reduced to 10% around that. So that is very, very encouraging. In terms of, the person resident outside India, they've been allowed to invest more now. In terms of, 10%, earlier it was, 5% around it. So that is also encouraging sign,
in equity markets.
Yes, listed equity around it. So that is, where the things is around that. So this is all encouraging, more compliance, flexibility around that bit.
That's true, but the markets have not taken it very well. We are seeing, the Nifty has fallen 400 points and the Sensex is down 1,000 points. I think there's a lot of dissatisfaction that happened with the STT. Of course, that is to the subset of those who are, trading in derivatives, etc. What do you make about some of the direct tax announcements made for the corporate sector, especially software services, and the MAT becoming the final tax? What does that mean for the companies affected, especially software services and those who have to declare MAT?
So see, this is again an encouragement for them around it. She's ensuring more of a compliance and giving the flexibility around that, but which is being provided to the corporates also around that.
Okay.
And to your point, yes, people wanted more of a disposable income.
Yes.
Okay. And it would have been, better around that bit and all. But like you said, last time also, there has been a pretty much 7 slab structure which has been introduced, pretty much formal, 4 lakh, 8 lakh, and then 5%, 10% likewise graded and all. So pretty much, something was provided. Of course, always there is a scope for, doing something around it and increasing that disposable income which can be invested across in markets for various savings and all. But yes, the scope was very little this time, given the last
but
time.
the hallmark or the tenet of the new direct tax policy is we will do away with the exemptions, right? We don't want the exemptions. So there was a clamor coming in from the masses that okay, investments, leave it to the public to decide what they want to do, but insurance is a cost. It isn't an investment, it's a cost. So at least include health insurance as an exemption in the new tax regime, right?
Yeah.
That has not come through. So does this give a message that zero exemptions will be the rule for the new tax rules?
So see, again, if you see the foundation of new regime, it has always been in terms of, being deprived of all deduction and exemption. So pretty much, if you see only the contribution to national pension scheme is being allowed as a deduction under the new regime and all. Standard deduction was introduced way back in 2023 around it. So that was the first movement which was done around that. But post that ever, they've come out, they've just stick to the foundation around it that will not give you any deduction and all. And the reason is, you got graded slab over there, pretty much reduced rates across. And they are giving you flexibility in terms of old regime for you to opt, where they say that, you can claim deduction, exemption and all. And, depending on your personal situation, go ahead and, claim it out over there if you want. They're not taking away the old regime, but to best of my knowledge, the focus will still remain on the new regime, and which will not allow you any exemption and deductions.
Right. So we're now joined with a few more guests to give in their reactions. Anil is also with us. So Anil, first up, your reaction to the budget. This time the big bang announcements are somehow missing.
Yeah.
Anil, request you to please unmute yourself.
I did that.
Yeah.
So, Anisha, the overall, if you heard the tenor of the budget speech, it is more like a very journeyman speech. So, which is probably why it's getting a lot of bad press in the markets and elsewhere. But if you look at the budget as a continuity and not as a standalone, like your previous commentator explained that everybody likes to get quick fixes. We live in a era of instant social media and gratification. That's not there in this budget. But it continues where it left off in the last budget, in that it's building the new architecture for the next growth trajectory of this country. So, basically I'll just highlight a few points. She continues with record capital expenditure. Then in terms of ease of doing business, the customs rejig, I've not gone through the detail, but clearly what we had discussed in the pre-budget conversation has happened.
But there's no amnesty, Anil, even on customs, there's tweaking, there's relief in particular items being imported. There's no yet announcement on the rationalization number of slabs, widely anticipated amnesty scheme, all that hasn't come through.
I'm not sure of the amnesty scheme, but from the speech, what I gathered is that a lot of these inverted duty structure issues have been addressed. We'll have to go through the fine detail.
Fine print.
Then capital expenditure has been sustained, which is very important. So the growth momentum continues. Then, she has flagged a very important point, which has escaped national narrative, is that India's silver economy. India is aging much faster than what we think. So our last numbers of the 2011 census, the fertility rates are falling, the birth rates are falling, the death rate is falling. So the aging population is growing very fast. Now she's turned that around to create an opportunity to generate service personnel to address the needs of that silver economy. Which so this is a new area which she's directed her attention
Specific training for 1 lakh, I think, individuals on the tier 2 and tier 3 cities for geriatric population.
Exactly. And then what we discussed in the pre-budget show, that there's a increased focus on handling urban areas beyond the metros. So she talked about tier 2, tier 3 towns. Then the connectivity between some of the towns, improved connectivity. And the in for Bharat, that is, there's India and there's Bharat, right? So for Bharat, the focus on agriculture again, she's linked up to what I had mentioned earlier, the one district, one product, linking it up to global supply chains. So all these are basically creating the architecture to raise India's growth profile and growth trajectory over the next 22 years. So nothing on instant gratification. There may be an odd one which we have missed, but largely because the speech tenor and tone was journeyman is why I suspect it's getting such bad press.
Yeah, but there are a few silver linings like the high-speed corridors or the tax relief to those companies offering cloud services with data centers stationed in India. So those are, of course, the high points of the budget coming through for the layman to understand. To you, I want to ask Chandar, what was the biggest takeaway for you, or the biggest win for the budget this year?
So see, more for me in terms of the compliance being introduced for the small taxpayers, they've been really struggling. We've got a lot of employees of MNCs and all. They're surprised to the equity base of the foreign company. They're not particularly aware that they need to disclose those foreign assets over here, being resident employees and all. So that compliance window is very encouraging and all.
But what are these foreign assets? Could they be shares, mutual funds, or is it just immovable assets?
So these are shares. The foreign company gives the
ESOPs.
subscription to the ESOPs and all, and they subscribe to the foreign shares and all. Typically there are these. Some people have gone for outbound assignments and all. They have foreign bank accounts also. They would have invested in other equities in the foreign market, etc. Once they have come back to India and they're qualifying as a global resident in India, they're supposed to disclose all this and plus pay any tax on the dividend income being earned on the sourced foreign income, foreign assets, shares, etc. So all this is required. Sometimes they don't disclose it out, they don't pay, and this window is very encouraging for them, because we've seen notices getting issued to all such taxpayers and all, with the hefty penalty under the Black Money Act and all, and sometimes fear of prosecution also lying around that. So this window is very, very encouraging for all of them. So this is my bigger takeaway. And the other thing is, of course, we got the new Income Tax Act coming. As I said, it's the ease of compliance and more of kind of neutralizing every section around that bit. So that is there.
All right. We have with us Mr. Abhijit Sinha, Chief Economist at the Ease of Doing Business. Abhijit, thanks for being with us. What's your biggest takeaway from the budget this year, and what is your rating of the budget as well?
Hi, Namaskar. I hope I am audible to you.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I was guessing that this is going to happen, and to certain extent, we also predicted that this budget is not going to be a conventional budget. It is going to be a budget of emerging economies. In last 10 years, government has focused from 2014 to 2024, particularly after graduating from manufacturing economy, that is Make in India, towards startup economy. We also focused to a certain extent on MSME, ODOP, one district, one product, and much more around bringing production and also infrastructure to make it. But this budget, which is focusing on 2025 to 2030, it is in budget of new economies. And if I can compartmentalize these 5 new economies, which are emerging markets, then I can say it is also indicating to a certain extent the cultural economic boost. And last year, government has taken an indication. It also given an inclination towards around 2,000 crore rupees for all cultural avenues where infrastructure was needed. But all 5 economies which is focusing this budget is service export economy. So this time, if you listen MSME, then this MSME enhancement or capability is more focused towards service driven and also towards export driven. Third is tech for circular economy. Carbon capture, climate financing, blended climate financing, taxonomy, these all were in the budget wish list from last 3 to 4 years. Much could not happen into previous budget, but this year there has been a significant amount of allocation to it. two more budgets are very visible, two more markets are very visible, is ease of living. Minister has repeatedly spoken about how ease of living would be able to bring in the mainstream, and many of these conversations has also brought ease of living. It is not only in terms of mobility, but also in terms of taxes and businesses. Other than that, the last but not least is also catering to ease of mobility. So logistic over a period of time, infrastructure into 6 months, 6 years, and now it is concluding to bringing the cost of logistic down from one production unit to an export unit. So for a long period of time, we were looking at that how these would be able to work together, and I think this is much visible now. Both these economies, service, tech for circular economy, ease of living, and ease of mobility, are emerging markets. It would take some time for all experts and all market analysts to look at the budget, because conventionally those who are businesses are not looking at budget from their own perspective. They're looking it from their own expectations. But the budget which has came for emerging markets, and these emerging markets are not like non-existing. They are supposed to be a part of existing businesses, and this will only be possible if someone is going to take a drive. So I don't think so it is a budget which is not catering to the need of the nation. It is very much catering. It is not looking like startup centric, manufacturing centric, ODOP centric, service centric. It is looking AI centric. It is giving in assumption to somebody who's going to set up data center here. So my is it's a very progressive budget, and it is giving an indication to industries that which direction you need to move now, and the direction which industry is going to take. I'm sure the tech for circular economy or service economy. Previously, that announcement which government has done to 25,060 crore rupees for India $1 trillion service economy bring, and it has came in November only for 2025 to 2026 till 2030-2031 period. So 20,000 crore rupees for India's 1 billion export dream is definitely going to bring different outlays in the budget. It is bringing all fragmented schemes of government of India under one roof, so that a product-driven outcome. And to me, it is sounding very convincing, because we have been talking about it, that ministries and teams coming from ministries are not in a coordination mode. They have been fragmented. They have been working on MSMEs. They have been working on startups. They have been working on manufacturing, but separately. Now, when all of them they work together, it is more of a single window clearance for outcome, and it also has to be adopted. So tomorrow, when you look at the problems which have recently seen, and what we call it in our popular sense is twisted triple T, tariff trade and Trump's tariff trade. It is more of towards product. It was not towards the services. So for India, it is very important to shift from product-driven economy to service-driven economy. At the other side, in energy, for us, it is very important to shift from oil economy to green economy. And in this shift, if you like, it was expected that some ESG-led capital formally gets some recognition of transition finance here. And the budget was expected to give us some clarity on the tax. It is linking a blended climate financing instrument. It is also linking a carbon capture mandate, and it is bringing institutions to look into it, plan it accordingly, because by 2030, India would have a $2 trillion green economy in ambition.
Right.
And this
Abhijit,
green
so give us your rating then. Overall, you seem happy, but out of 10, how much are you going to give to this budget?
I would give 8.5, because there are some outlays we were expecting to be definitive in numbers. Those are not in numbers, but they are in transition. It looks like next year budget would have a better expectation meeting for emerging markets.
And perhaps the intent is there. I want to come to you, Chandar. I think you have a point to make after hearing Abhijit.
So, on the point of foreign assets, just wanted to, relate a point. India has, information sharing agreement with many countries. So what happens is, under those agreements, they tend to get information about Indians, holding foreign asset in those countries and all. And that information is, passed down to the authorities over here. A is that. Second is, our tax department has been very, very forthcoming and, very helping around it. What we've seen in the last 2 years, they've reached out to various clients and all, including us, encouraging us to, tell our clients, saying that, these compliances of foreign asset have not been undertaken. They're encouraging them to do that. And they've held, webinar jointly with us, for all our clients around it and educating the employees. So that is a kind of a storyline which was there as a background for this one-time window to come across. They are encouraging, now they're forthcoming, look, we are providing it to you and pay some fee around it and disclose it out and get rid of prosecution. Okay. So that was, the point.
So that helps in the ease of doing business, ease of living as well.
Compliance, yes.
Yes, it does help there.
It may not sound in numbers and all, but, the people who are going through that chain, that audit proceeding and all, they can tell you how much relief they would be.
Yeah. That headache is gone perhaps, or at least a relief is there.
Yeah.
We also have Mr. Sandeep Ghosh, business leader and political commentator, joining us now. Sandeep, your reaction to the budget and what do you make of the budget? Because like Abhijit said, it's a continuation of what the government has been doing for the longest time now. Many things are working. The fiscal deficit is in check, 4.3%. Capital spending is higher. Each sector seems to have given some sort of emphasis, especially those that are, impacted by the tariffs, be it leather, be it textile, even electronics getting a good outlay for the next few years. What is your rating of this budget? I think, Sandeep, you're on mute. We are unable to hear you. Could you please unmute yourself and begin again?
Yeah. So when you talk of ratings, I think we have to change the basis of our ratings for budgets. We tend to rate them with an old system, and we have to start looking at budgets with a new lens. And so far, the way even we analysts, the stock market sees things with a very single lens, what is going to do affect its income and investment. Even we so-called analysts who come in, we look at it, I think, still with an old lens and a somewhat, if I may say, an elitist angle. Okay. And then finally, we look at it, criticize the budget, analyze the budget, and finally, again, the government gets the stick later on for not generating employment and, having to dish out doles and, freebies and etc. So for them, it becomes a bit of a thankless job. But if you really look at what are the pressing issues just now or going forward, and if you change the ratings, as I said, the weightages, I think I would tend to agree with Abhijit. I would not go all the way to 8.5 as he has put, but I think directionally it is definitely, I would say, close or hovering around 7. And I'll tell you on why. There is one is the needs, one is what the country needs just now, one is the crisis or whatever challenges we are facing, and the third are our strengths. I think this budget takes into account all three. One, as we all know, Abhijit was talking of 3 T's. I think we have to add a 4th T to that is Trump. So the Trump angle is also to be taken into account, as you said, the tariffs, etc., whatever is happening. We need to insulate the economy and to some extent, buffer ourselves against those international shocks. So that is where you are talking about. I don't want to dwell on exports and other industries, what has been done. But most importantly, I think, we have also focused on our strengths, which are the areas where India can have a competitive advantage, be it in terms of our demographics, or be it in terms of whatever competencies we have developed over the years, and that's where you're talking about medical tourism, etc., all of it. But the most interesting one is, I think we are looking at creating jobs of the future for the next generation. And here I was talking about our elitist attitude. We look at things from a very, very urban perspective. But even if you look at what Anand was calling the Bharat, there the younger generation, their aspirations are very different in kind of jobs they're seeking. If we talk to people we interact who are from Bharat, who are working today in the cities, if you talk to them about their children's aspirations are very, very different. And I think that's where, bringing the skills, aligning the skills with the requirement, and that's the caregivers, medical technicians, tourist guides, etc., are, I think, very, very relevant, and that can open up opportunities when you combine that with AI, technology, digitization. Someone was explaining to the other day, the difference between big AI and small AI. And they said the small AI is the kind of stuff which we can do on our phones and which even people who can't read or write can use in their day-to-day thing. And example he was citing is, how women can just take a photo of a leaf in the field and figure out what is the ailment over there and pass it on and get things done. So when you're talking about these caregivers, etc., these sort of AI technologies will enable them far more. And that is the way we have to look at creating jobs. And I think the government is looking at those areas, because while you can do the optics, top line by tinkering with tax rates or putting some incentives, etc., which can get you brownie points or get a few cheers once you finish reading the budget speech. The real issue will be how we have made a difference to the common people's life throughout the period. And employment is the big, a monster in the room, and we have to tackle it, and that cannot be tackled in our conventional ways. I don't want to belabor all the talk of skill building which we have done over the years. I think that every government has talked of skill missions, etc., but those have been a complete waste. Now the skill building will have to be relevant and use technology which will create that demand, enable people to do it on their own. Creating ITIs or getting government to do those things are not going to work anymore. We need to do this very rapidly, scale up very fast, and that's where the combination of AI, technology, everything will come in. So this emphasis on, I was very encouraged to hear about the creative labs in the schools which they are setting up to make people, STEM is also overrated. In our kind of country, you have to get people educated in the creativity and other forms, design, all these things which are happening. I think that's where I would give greater weightage and marks to this budget.
All right. So different kinds of skills the government is recognizing, and perhaps if the industry wants more skilled people, then they should come together to skill themselves. That will work better. Perhaps industry associations can also lead skilling initiatives.
No, this will micro skills. It is not the.
I'll come to you, sir. Yeah, I'll come to you, Sandeep ji. Let me just go across to Anil. We were hoping a lot for an increase in the defense spending, and the defense capital outlay has seen a jump of nearly 22%. Anil, do you think this was in line with what you were expecting? And even the semiconductor, they're coming up with a PLI 2.0, I think, outlay of 40,000 crores for the next few years. So what do you make of these two sectors?
Anisha, it is exactly in line of the defense side of spending is what we discussed in the run-up to the budget speech. So clearly, the government re-emphasized its priority for defense spending. And like I had flagged to you earlier, this is the first budget after Operation Sindoor. Operation Sindoor kind of de-risked defense investments, including by the private sector. So if the pumping of PLI for semiconductors, you're further boosting India's strategic capability. And I just want to go back and take another crack at adding to what Sandeep said, to try and put it in a better perspective. And stick to my theme that there is no instant gratification. There's long-term potential gratification built into this budget. You check all the boxes. We are not giving the FM credit for fiscal consolidation. It has happened in extremely inclement circumstances, and you have not only maintained it, you're planning to lower it in the next budget, unmindful of the fact that a year ahead is full of uncertainties and fresh Trump antics can rock the world afresh. So you have fiscal consolidation is hugely important, and I suspect the bond markets, etc., must be very happy with the fact that she stayed on course. The other is, the point is that where I said you picked up from where you left off, to sustaining the growth trajectory, we did mention capital expenditure spending. The MSMEs, again, she has highlighted the fact, and in the pre-event, we had discussed how MSMEs are going to be central to India reviving its growth trajectory, or sustaining its growth trajectory. Then of course, the people-centric development, which Sandeep also talked about, the fact that the skills are being aligned, rather the education is being aligned to skills, and the skills are being aligned to what is required, as opposed to the earlier template that we just generated graduates and engineers without realizing whether they can be, and they had to eventually be repurposed to fit them for the jobs that they were eventually hired. I'm sure you know that TCS, Wipro, and Infi have massive campuses purely to retool the engineers they hire. So hopefully all these are, like building blocks. And please, I want to reemphasize that this is a different growth outlook. It's not what India achieved so far. And like Sandeep said, we have to recalibrate the way we view the budget. This is a budget looking forward and not instant point at this point of the year.
Right. Abhijit, when it comes to the MSME sector, there were significant announcements, especially when it comes to access to capital. 10,000 crore rupee SME growth fund for equity, plus liquidity support using TREDS. So it will be mandated as the settlement platform for all transactions with CPSEs, all government companies. And there is a credit guarantee support for invoicing, plus linking GEM with TREDS. So, a lot of announcements do come about for MSMEs in budgets. The sad bit is that a lot of MSMEs are not, they don't even know about these schemes, and hence they remain small. They don't utilize these facilities. Now the government is saying that they want to develop a cadre of corporate mitras who will help MSMEs with their compliance, with the schemes, with becoming bigger. How big do you think is this announcement? And of course, the financing measures ease of improving financial access for smaller companies.
I think we have been speaking about it for more than 5 years, that only giving announcement or only putting an outlay
or
to
schemes.
MSME schemes does not help a lot. It has to start somewhere and then it has to reach. This time in budget, government has outlined the entire picture, that if you look at 10,000 crore which Finance Minister has spoken about, it's a specific growth for MSME. Add this 10,000 crore rupees with 25,000 crore which has announced as an export mission in November by the cabinet. Now altogether this 30,000 crore rupees is going to reach to MSMEs and SMEs only if they know where to go, how to access this fund, and it would not be possible if the chartered accountant culture will only remain to cities, it will only remain to corporates. It has to reach to tier 2, tier 3 cities. So I look at what Finance Minister has said, that there has to be a new cadre serving to tier 2 and tier 3 cities, which are in paramedic force type of chartered accountant who will be working with MSMEs and SMEs to tell them that all fragmented schemes of Government of India are under same roof, and your target is to build something which has an export value. This was felt for a long period of time. India built a lot of product, lot of technologies which has an export value, but it does not reach. because of three things. One, digital infrastructure does not help listing of our product, technologies and services into global market. So particularly when I joined SEPCS principal advisor, the first mission given to us is to make it possible that all Indian soft skill power is visible to countries, is visible to the globe. When you compare counseling or even teaching guitar globally, your Indian service sector is much at and much well placed in terms of pricing, not only the product driven economy, but this all are unorganized. They don't have any access to finance. They are not listed anywhere. Now the culture is going to shift, and this shift in the culture will include lot of unorganized services into organized services. I am sure that I look at this announcement of Nivesh Mitra and the new force of para chartered accountants would be a very significant step that government has taken.
All right. Sandeep ji, when we come to education, employment, and things like that, the government announced the formation of a standing committee, high-powered education and employment standing committee. I mean, what can we expect from here? Standing committee takes its time, but it's finding suggestions come up before Parliament. What are your expectations here?
I don't know what I did to deserve. You're calling me Sandeep G now, adding a G to my name. You can drop that for effect. But the point here, I'm very skeptical of these committees. There, I think this area is also where there can be great collaboration with industry, and that too international industry, global industries, to create those kind of talent pool. The tech industry, I know the entire AI ecosystem, they're looking at India, and they want that kind of talent, whether it's in the content making, whether in creativity, and whether in all these, as I said, the skill-based services. So I think that collaboration will work very well, and if they can rope in shedding our phobia for some of these big international names to really catalyze creating talent pool in India, which is offshore, without trying to, and that can be a very, very, it can be an explosive moment. And these things will happen very fast, as we have seen with a lot of our digital initiatives. So mission, I have skepticism, but in terms of the direction, the thinking of the government, I think they are thinking very correctly. The execution becomes important. You were talking about corporate mitras. One part is the compliance bit, and what Abhijit was talking about, I like the term para-CAs or like paramedics. Actually, the CA, I'm a chartered accountant myself, though a fossilized one and from a dinosaur age. But the CA profession produces a lot of paramedics, because a lot of people who enter, if you see that between the entry and exit of a CA course, is a huge, only 2% qualify from 3%. Now they've increased the percentage, but there are a lot of people who either fall on the wayside, and some of them have been so far doing these things on their own. Okay, you couldn't qualify for what reason or the other, you finish your intermediate or something. But if you can provide an organized structure, that's great. But what is required, I think today, one part is the compliance, for which you have to clear up bureaucracy and simplify rules, but also how do you connect the idea? People may be having the ideas and show them the way, sort of hand-holding to create those enterprises. Again, what Abhijit was talking about, the unorganized skill sector. How do you bring in something like, what aggregators like an Urban Clap and other people have also done in certain ways. You can have that. I love the idea of what he is saying of teaching music. You could be doing that, long distance, but there will be people who are bringing them onto a platform and providing them that opportunity. And these kind of connections will be important. I have seen in Uttar Pradesh I don't know what is happening in other states. The Yogi government has enlisted a lot of these youngsters from bright colleges who are who come in to do like interns, associating with the government to do the incubation and startups. That sort of you don't need to get people coming from foreign colleges. There are people internally in India. If that happens, you'll see they can play a catalyst role. So it's all a lot of ideas, good ideas are coming from the center, but all finally boils down to execution. And
right. I want to come to you, Chandan. If you can just recap for us the announcements on the direct tax side. You've already spoken to us about the foreign assets and how they'll be treated. There is also a different timeline given for filing of taxes and the penalties involved. If you could just recap some of those announcements in the budget and make it simpler for our audience.
Sure. So from a tax return perspective, the deadline for ITR 1 and 2 remains 31st July only. She mentioned that in terms of the non-audit business and all, the due date is being extended to 31st August. So that is a kind of a relief.
So what is ITR 1 and 2? If you could break that down also, who does it impact?
So normally, salaried class individuals, capital gain professional and all, they're filing where, the audit, etc. are not required only. Tax audit is a separate thing, non-audit business profession and all. That is done by 31st July and all.
And that remains the same?
That remains to 31st August. That goes to 31st August and all. For them, there is a flexibility. For normal gen, people, salary class and all, that still remains, 31st July only, around that bit. The revised return, from 31st, normal deadline is 31st December. This can be increased to 31st March by payment of fee. So that is more kind of a flexibility being given across. So that is there. And in terms of, updated return coming into picture, always the option was there, updated return up to 2 years and all, post completion of the assessment year and all. Then again, next 2 years were also introduced. Now it is being said that in case assessment is still on, you can still file a updated return subject to payment of this thing. So it's a more kind of a compliance, and clearly it is being mentioned that the tax officer will consider that updated return during the part of the assessment proceedings and all. So clear-cut guidelines around that is also there. In terms of appeals, etc., we spoke about the demand which is there. At least you need to pay 20%. That has been reduced to 10%. Then they're saying that in case the appeal is being filed to the first appellate authority, that is CID appeals, then there would not be any interest being paid, okay, for the demand and all, irrespective of whatever is the outcome of the order. So that is very, encouraging in terms of, no interest, penal interest being paid and all. You can go and appeal across. So that is, more around that bit.
And what about the penalties for errors when filing? What was said in the budget for that?
So we need to see the fine print around it, around that bit. But clearly, more of those provisions are aligned where, prosecution is taken away and all. That fear of prosecution is taken away. And, it's more kind of a smoothing for the taxpayers.
Right. Dr. Shumesh Kumar, I asked you a few questions. One, the provisions of the budget for the healthcare sector. To your mind, has the budget done enough when it comes to our social infrastructure? The physical infrastructure capex has grown. We don't have the numbers for the social infrastructure as such, but are you happy with what you heard for the social infrastructure of our country after the finance minister spoke?
I think a lot need to be done in that, and as well as social infrastructure is concerned, first of all, if we focus on health infrastructure, so public health facilities that really need to be improved, particularly at sub-center and PHC level. So I was expecting more from the side of finance minister. Actually, this budget came in very difficult geopolitical and even global economic conditions. So I was expecting that even more disposable income should be given in the hands of the consumer, and that I think is missing part. And then I was also expecting, if from health point of view, the extension of RPMJY. So this is a first step of India towards the UHC, and extension was very much required to make healthcare more affordable. And then I was also expecting a decrease in import duty on medical equipment. So which is also need of the healthcare sector. And though government tried to bring down the prices of batteries and more boost to EV vehicles. But still, I think there should be a direct provision for tackling pollution in the country, which has a direct impact on the health. So that part again is missing, and obviously the human resource scarcity in the health sector that need to be addressed. Though for elderly care, 1.5 lakh health professionals will be trained, but I think a lot need to be done in that. So this is one part we need to create social infrastructure. I think that is missing in that part. And then attracting foreign direct investment and foreign portfolio investment again, which is very important. I was expecting that even some relief on short-term, long-term capital gain. And this is the reason you said market is not accepting this budget. This is the one reason. So apart from social infrastructure, these are also few things I was expecting in the budget in very difficult global geopolitical and economic conditions.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing with us your views on where the budget delivered and where perhaps it didn't meet your expectations. We've got some reactions coming in from ministers to Nirmala Sitharaman's speech. Let's cut across and listen to how they reacted.
And we hope to take forward the Prime Minister's vision of capitalizing on India's growth potential. You have seen a growth of close to 7.5%, a complete control on inflation coming down to 1.7%, a huge jump in capital expenditure from 2 lakh crore to almost 11 lakh crore this year to 12 lakh crore next year. So it's a budget that is going to empower India, is going to power India, and is going to take India on its trajectory, which is today the fourth largest economy to the third largest economy by next year and onward and forward.
बिल्कुल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पर, और जो नए नए पूरे आइटम है इलेक्ट्रॉनिक है, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कंपोनेंट, मोबाइल फोन, बाकी चिप्स, और इसके अलावे जो एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बात मैं कहना चाहूँगा कि टायर 2, टायर 3 सिटीज में कॉर्पोरेट मित्रा की जो बात की गई है वो काफ़ी एक नई सोच है, तो अभिनंदन, बहुत अभिनंदन।
मुझे बहुत ही खुशी है आज का हमारी फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर निर्मला सीतारमन जी के द्वारा रखा गया ये बजट सच में नरेंद्र मोदी जी के सपनों का, उनके विजन का विकसित भारत 2047 की ओर आगे कदम बढ़ाने वाला ये बजट है, और जिसने हर वर्ग को छुआ है, व्यापार के नए नए आयामों पे काम करने के लिए प्रोत्साहित किया है। जिस तरीके से एक एक सेगमेंट पे इस बजट ने अपनी बात रखी है, और विशेष रूप से युवाओं में रोजगार जनरेशन के लिए जिस तरीके से यहाँ पर बात की, जिस तरीके से हमारे कल्चरल हेरिटेज के ऊपर उसको सजोने, उसको बहुत ही सुंदर टूरिज्म इंडस्ट्री के रूप में डेवलप करने की बात यहाँ की गई है, वो भी बहुत ही शानदार था। खेलो इंडिया मिशन पे नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार के विजन को भी ये बजट दर्शाता है, और विदेशों में जिस तरीके से ये बात कही गई कि आपको यदि एजुकेशन और हेल्थ केयर के लिए जाना है उसमें जो रिबेट्स मिली हैं वो भी बहुत ही शानदार है। आपदा प्रबंधन पे जो अनुदान शहरों को मिलेगा उसमें भी दिल्ली को मुझे लगता है बहुत उम्मीदें हमें हैं, और जो 1.4 लाख करोड़ का बजट हमें कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर के नाते राज्यों को मिलने वाला है वो भी एक बहुत सुंदर प्रयास है जिसमें हर राज्य आगे बढ़ पाएगा। मुझे लगता है कि इस बजट के लिए मैं जितनी बधाई दूं फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर को उतनी कम है, क्योंकि जिस तरीके से उन्होंने हर तरीके से हर सेगमेंट पे काम किया है, वो हेल्थ में शानदार नए प्रयासों पे काम हो रहा है। जो हमारा कंटेंट राइटर्स के लिए AVGS सेक्टर में काम करने की बात की है, ये भी बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है, विशेष रूप से दिल्ली जैसे शहरों के लिए। ढेरों बधाई, ढेरों शुभकामनाएं समस्त देशवासियों को हमारी फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर को, देश के प्रधानमंत्री आदरणीय मोदी जी को, जिनके प्रयासों से ये बजट आया है और इस बजट से पूरे देश को लाभ मिलने वाला है। देश प्रगति करेगा, हर राज्य प्रगति करेगा। थैंक यू सो मच।
यही हाल रहा तो लोहे पर पीतल चढ़ा करके जेवर बनाने पड़ेंगे। और ये बजट गरीब के समझ के बाहर है। जो बुनियादी चीज़ें हैं, शिक्षा, स्वास्थ्य, आप सोचिए उत्तर प्रदेश का हाल आपने सुना होगा, देखा होगा। पोस्टमार्टम होना है किसका, और पोस्टमार्टम के लिए ले किसको जा रहे हैं। ओटी में जाना किसको था, ले किसको जा रहे हैं। ये तो स्वास्थ्य व्यवस्था का हाल है। और शिक्षा का हालत ये है कि बिना शिक्षा के हम विकसित भारत कैसे बनाएंगे। विकसित भारत का सपना अगर देखना है तो शिक्षा क्षेत्र में हमें ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा बजट देना पड़ेगा। ये समझ से बाहर बजट है, ये सपने दिखाने वाला बजट है। जिन लोगों ने अपने पुराने घोषणा पत्र पे कोई काम ना किया, उनसे उम्मीद क्या करोगे। बीजेपी से उम्मीद ही नहीं तो बजट से उम्मीद क्या करेंगे। ये हमेशा बड़े लोगों के लिए, 5% के लोगों के लिए बजट बनाते हैं, आम जनता के निराश किया है। और फिर 25 करोड़ अगर गरीबी रेखा से बाहर आ गए हैं तो कम से कम ये बताएं कि जो 95% आबादी हमारे देश की है, उस जो गरीब है उसकी प्रति व्यक्ति आय क्या है। क्या सरकार ये बताएगी प्रति व्यक्ति आय क्या है। ये किसी को राहत देने वाला बजट नहीं है। मिडिल क्लास का वोट ले लेंगे, गरीब का वोट ले लेंगे, किसान का वोट ले लेंगे, लेकिन बजट आएगा तो 5% लोगों के लिए बनाएंगे। उत्तर प्रदेश के लिए प्रधानमंत्री मिल गए हैं, मुख्यमंत्री हैं, तो क्या जरूरत है और चीज की। अब सोचिए अयोध्या जैसी जगह पर तो इसीलिए मैंने कहा ये हालत रही तो सोने पर पीतल लगा करके जेवर पहनने पड़ेंगे। रिफॉर्म्स की बात कही गई है, रिफॉर्म्स कर रही लोग। कोई उम्मीद नहीं इनसे, बीजेपी से कोई उम्मीद नहीं है कि न गरीब, किसान, गांव में रहने वालों के लिए कोई बड़ा फैसला लेंगे। जो बुनियादी ढांचा है उसको भी खत्म कर देंगे।
For Kerala, total disappointment for Kerala. Total disappointment for Kerala. Last 7 years they are promising. Last 10 years they are promising that AIMS is going to give to Kerala. In this budget also no mention about AIMS for Kerala. If you think about the tourism sector, Ayurveda sector, health sector, everything, Kerala has a very big contribution for this country. Nothing concretely for Kerala. What they are given to Kerala, some announcement, general announcement regarding some industries, and then one corridor for mineral resources. These are all for, for whom they are announcing all these things. This budget is not for common people. It's this budget for big corporates. Sabri rail issue was also no, ma'am. Then I don't know how much they are earmarking for Manrega. We would like to know about that. We will see the details and we'll comment on details. The market has crashed, sir. It means that people are not welcoming this budget. Do you think so? How can people welcome this budget? Nothing is there. Hollow. Completely hollow.
क्या बताऊं यार, डिटेल्स तो बहुत कम मिले ना। जैसे कि 3-4 हेडलाइन थे, लेकिन जब हम इंतजार कर रहे थे कि ऑल इंडिया इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ आयुर्वेदा कहाँ आएगी, हमारे केरला में चाहिए हमें। हमारे तो बहुत लंबी ट्रेडिशन है आयुर्वेदा की, लेकिन केरला का नाम नहीं सुना। फिशर कोकोनट तो शायद केरला ही हो सकते हैं, क्योंकि मेरे ख्याल में भारत का सबसे ज़्यादा बड़ा केरला कोकोनट प्रोड्यूसिंग स्टेट तो केरला ही है। तो वो तो होना चाहिए। वैसे भी फिशरीज़ में हमें कुछ बेनिफिट होना चाहिए। लेकिन जब शिप रिपेयर के बारे में बोला और वाराणसी और पटना के बारे में बोला, केरला के बारे में कुछ नहीं सुन सका, तो ये सब हमें ज़रा सा आश्चर्यजनक है। लेकिन ये भी कहूँ कि शायद डिटेल्स बजट डॉक्यूमेंट में होंगे, हम पढ़ा नहीं, अब तक सिर्फ भाषण सुने हैं। भाषण में तो बहुत कम डिटेल्स है जो हमें ज़रूरी थी।
I propose to rationalize prosecution framework under Income Tax Act while maintaining a careful balance for deterrence in some serious offence. Non-production of books of account and I propose to rationalize prosecution framework under Income Tax Act while maintaining a careful balance for deterrence in some serious offence. Non-production of books of account and documents and requirement of TDS payment where payment is made in kind are being decriminalized. Further, minor offences will attract fine only. The remaining prosecutions will be graded commensurate with the quantum of offence. They will entail only simple imprisonment with maximum imprisonment reduced to 2 years and power to courts to convert even those into fines. There is no penalty. There is no penalty presently for non-disclosure of non-immovable foreign assets with aggregate value less than 20 lakh rupees. I propose to also provide them with immunity from prosecution with retrospective effect from 1/10/2024. Cooperatives. Deduction is already allowed to a primary cooperative society engaged in supplying milk, oilseeds, fruits or vegetables raised or grown by its members. I propose to extend this deduction to also include supply of cattle feed and cotton seed produced by its members. I propose to allow inter-cooperative society dividend income as deduction under the new tax regime to the extent it is further distributed to its members. I further propose to allow exemption for a period of 3 years to dividend income received by a notified national cooperative federation on their investments made in companies up to 31/1/2026. This exemption would be allowed only for dividends further distributed to its member cooperatives. Supporting IT sector as India's growth engine. India is a global leader in software development services, IT-enabled services, knowledge process outsourcing services, and contract R&D services relating to software development. These businesses and their segments are quite interconnected with each other. All these services are proposed to be clubbed under a single category of information technology services with a common safe harbor margin of 15.5% applicable to all. The threshold for availing safe harbor for IT services is being enhanced substantially from 300 crore rupees to 2,000 crore rupees. Safe harbor for IT services shall be approved by an automated rule-driven process without any need for tax officer to examine and accept the application. Once applied by an IT services company, the same safe harbor can be continued for a period of 5 years at a stretch at its choice. For IT services companies who want to conclude advanced pricing agreement, APA, I propose to fast-track unilateral APA process for IT services and endeavor to conclude it within a period of 2 years. The period of 2 years can be extended by a further period of 6 months on taxpayers' request. I propose to extend the facility of modified returns available to the entity entering APA to its associated entities also. Attracting global business and investment. Recognizing the need to enable critical infrastructure and boost investment in data centers, I propose to provide tax holiday till 2047 to any foreign company that provides cloud services to customers globally by using data center services from India. It will, however, need to provide services to Indian customers through an Indian reseller entity. I also I also propose to provide a safe harbor of 15% on cost in case the company providing data center services from India is a related entity. To harness the efficiency of just-in-time logistics for electronic manufacturing, I propose to provide safe harbor to non-residents for component warehousing in a bonded warehouse at a profit margin of 2% of the invoice value. The resultant tax of about 0.7% will be much lower than in competing jurisdictions. To provide fillip to toll manufacturing in India, I propose to provide exemption from income tax for 5 years to any non-resident who provides capital goods, equipment, or tooling to any toll manufacturer in a bonded zone. To encourage vast pool of global talent to work in India for a longer period of time, I propose to provide exemption to global, non-India sourced income of a non-resident expert for a stay period of 5 years under notified schemes. I propose to provide exemption from minimum alternate tax, the MAT, to all non-residents who pay tax on presumptive basis. Tax administration. I propose to constitute a joint committee of Ministry of Corporate Affairs and Central Board of Direct Taxes for incorporating the requirements of income computation and disclosure standards, the ICDS, in the Indian Accounting Standards, IND AS itself. Separate accounting requirement based on ICDS will be done away with from the tax year 27-28. To support Prime Minister Modi's vision of homegrown accounting and advisory firms to become global leaders, I propose to rationalize the definition of accountant for the purposes of safe harbor rules. Other tax proposals. Change in taxation of buyback was brought in to address the improper use of buyback route by promoters. In the interest of minority shareholders, I propose to tax buyback for all types of shareholders as capital gains. However, to disincentivize misuse of tax arbitrage, promoters will pay an additional buyback tax. This will make effective tax 22% for corporate promoters. For non-corporate promoters, the effective tax will be 30%. TCS rate for sellers of specific goods, namely alcoholic liquor, scrap, and minerals, will be rationalized to 2%, and that on tendu leaves will be reduced from 5% to 2%. I propose to raise the STT on futures to 0.05% from the present 0.02%. STT on options premium and exercise of options are both proposed to be raised to 0.15% from the present rate of 0.1% and 0.125% respectively. We reformed the taxation landscape for corporates in 2019 by providing them a simplified regime with lower tax rate so that they could productively focus on business rather than on claim of deductions and exemptions. To encourage companies to shift to the new regime, set off of brought forward MAT credit, minimum alternate tax credit, is proposed to be allowed to companies only in the new regime. Set off using available MAT credit is proposed to be allowed to an extent of 1/4 of the tax liability in the new regime. MAT is proposed to be made final tax, so there will be no further credit accumulation from 1st April 2026. In line with this change, the rate of final tax is being reduced to 14% from the current MAT rate of 15%. The brought forward MAT credit of taxpayers accumulated till 30th March 2026 will continue to be available to them for set-off as above. Indirect taxes. I shall now take up proposals related to indirect taxes. My proposals for customs and central excise aim
So that's the recap from the Finance Minister on the important announcements in the budget. Now let's get in a few industrial reactions from the industry. Let's cut across to our studio at FICCI and let's hear out Harshpati Singhania, who spoke to us at the FICCI studio.
At a time when manufacturing is central to India's growth ambition.
Sorry, 1 second. Ready? 1, 2, 3, yes.
At a time when manufacturing is central to India's growth ambition, the Union Budget 2026 sets the tone for the industry. Joining me to help decode this is Mr. Harshpati Singhania, past President FICCI and CMD of JK Paper Limited. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
My first question to you would be, what do you make of this year's budget's focus on manufacturing? Did it build on the momentum? How do you see this from the industry perspective?
I think it not just builds, but it enhances the momentum. Because the Finance Minister talked about scaling, and particularly in 7 critical strategic sectors. She also talked about competitiveness, which if you notice from the economic survey was a major point that was brought out. So when you look at some of the major sectors, we've got to scale up in manufacturing in the country. And she talked about these 7 sectors which were there in terms of, things like biopharma, things in the area of electronics, things in the areas of rare earths. So there were many areas which focus was there. Also in talking about rejuvenating the existing industrial clusters, the legacy clusters, the infra push continues. So all of this feeds into manufacturing. And manufacturing is an important part of developing economy, creating jobs. And as you know, our ambition has been to get to about 25% of GDP with manufacturing. And we are far behind. So I think there was a welcome emphasis on this.
Right. One of the significant sectors that we saw where announcements were made is the MSME sector. Large industries also have, a large MSME supplier base. How do you see all the announcements that were made, the 10,000 crore equity support, the announcements around trades? Trades has been a mixed bag till now. How do you see that?
No, I think the MSME is very crucial because that creates actually even more jobs than large-scale manufacturing does. Because as you rightly said, this is a feeder system into large-scale manufacturing. So for large-scale manufacturing to grow, you need to have a very robust MSME sector, a supplier chain. And as we are seeing global supply chains being disrupted, if we can strengthen our domestic supply chains, it's very important. The other area where I think on manufacturing, and you can call it MSME, but also large scale, has been on areas which have been affected by tariffs. So for example, labor-intensive sectors, textiles, leather, garment, marine exports. So a lot of these sectors have been affected. And in fact, if you notice, the Finance Minister has tried to provide some relief from SEZ to taxation reliefs to bring it to a domestic tariff area because these sectors have been affected by the tariffs.
Right. You mentioned the word tariff. It'd be interesting to know from you, how much do you think of this year's budget has to do with what's happening geopolitically or the external sector?
See, budgets or any plan cannot be made in isolation of what is happening globally. So one is the strengthening of domestic manufacturing by itself. The infra push, all of these are strengthening the country. The Finance Minister also talked about a strong and robust financial sector. So these are all, this is one part of it. The other part, if you notice, is about trying to attract foreign investment through data centers, the tax holiday on data centers by foreign companies. Also tolling margin for capital goods by foreign companies to be able to do this. Now, one of the areas which I would believe, which has been affected, is the weakening of the rupee, is because money has been going out, we are not getting as much FDI as we would want. And in this kind of a global geopolitical situation, if we can attract money into the country, it helps our currency as well. So clearly this has been kept in mind. The third part is the softer side, which is the development of the skills required. You can have the hardware, but what about the software? And therefore, a lot of emphasis on skilling, on scaling up the human capital available in a variety of areas is very important. And one other point on a macro level that I'd like to point out, which is very, again, leads into that, is the fact that the government has continued on the path of fiscal discipline. The debt GDP ratio is coming down continuously. And India stands out as one of the few economies, and certainly amongst the very large and fast-growing economies, which is offering stability and certainty in a world which is full of turmoil. If you see the debt GDP ratios of many other countries, they're completely out of whack.
Right. So yeah, I think fiscal deficit at 4.3 is what we are aiming at for next year. Last question to you would be, what are the hits and the misses? Every budget, the industry has expectations. Do you think there were some areas where the FM could have done a little better?
Look, it's unfair for me to say what the misses are, because we have to look at the fine print, and honestly, there is a lot that will be there in the details which is not there. I think overall, directionally, it is very positive. It is good. There was no mention, if you ask really what, there was no mention of GST, but then GST is a separate matter which is done by the GST Council. So it really doesn't have to feature into the budget. And I think overall, it keeps to continuity, it keeps to predictability, and it aims to continuously take away irritants and ease. So like you would have seen decriminalization of certain things, for smaller things, converting them into fees instead of having penalties. So I think it continues in a very positive direction.
Great. Thank you so much for talking to us and giving your first views on the budget 2026.
Pleasure. Thanks.
Right, so we've got the reaction coming in from an industry person, largely happy with the budget, and of course a lot of people believe that this is a forward-looking budget and is continuing the momentum of growth of infrastructure, spending. All of that just continues in this budget. Now, I want to go to Anil and ask him about the fiscal maths, because we are getting more details of the numbers mentioned in the budget. Anil, we are seeing the number for fiscal deficit coming in at 4.3%. What is the government factoring in when it comes to expected revenues, both tax, non-tax, and market borrowings? Because, the market has corrected, the stock markets have corrected, and perhaps it's something more than just the hike in STT. So could you break down the fiscal math for us?
Sure. Anisha, the first glance, it looked like she had checked all the relevant boxes as far as fiscal consolidation goes. But I was just looking at the numbers because they're available now. Now, she's able to maintain the glide path largely despite a fall in revenues. So expenditure obviously had to be pulled back. Now, that we'll have to figure out where she has cut the expenditure. But for me, the bigger concern is looking at the next fiscal year, where she has been pretty optimistic about the revenue projections, not keeping in mind that the revenue realizations this year were lower than what was projected last year. So to give you an example, last year income tax, obviously collections fell, I suspect, because of the giveaways that the FM announced in her budget. But what was projected was 14.38 lakh crore, but they ended up with 13.12 lakh crore. That's a pretty big fall. But next year, they are expecting it to rebound to 14.66. I think a little optimistic, if I ask me. And then corporation tax actually what saved her, because it went up from the projected number of 10.8 lakh crore to 11.1 lakh crore. And next year she's projecting a 12.3 lakh crore jump. So basically, there's a red flag implicit in this fiscal math, and like I said earlier, we are looking at a the uncertainty is par for the course in the next fiscal year. So we have to keep an eye out on the revenue side and thereby the overall fiscal number. But the borrowings are not projected to go up, but this is still very early in the year. We'll have to watch this number carefully.
Yeah. So the borrowing figure was 17.2 lakh crore rupees. And that is something which is closely watched by the markets, because then that impacts the amount of funds available to the rest of India to borrow, plus also has an impact on the trajectory of interest rates. So the borrowing plan has come in a little higher than what the market was expecting. The borrowing, what they were expecting, was going to be closer to 16. The expected was will be about anywhere between 16.3 to 16.5 lakhs, and perhaps the borrowing figure is a little higher than anticipated, which is why we are seeing a sharp sell-off that came in for the markets. But now they seem to have stabilized. As far as the revenue dip from direct taxes, personal direct taxes, that was anticipated. Yes, we need to see whether the optimistic targets that the finance minister has laid out for collections next year from direct taxes, the individual ones, will come through or not. So let me get in a reaction from you. So the numbers we just quoted, Chandra, do you think these are very optimistic, or they can be done? 14.66 lakh crore rupees in IT receipts expected next year.
It could be done. They're encouraging compliance long time and all, and the way the budget has come, as I said, there may not be much in terms of the disposable numbers and all, but in terms of compliance, fines, penalties and all, the way she's encouraging those compliance, so moto people coming, paying fine, and what we've seen the trend in last couple of budgets and all, and the impact they've got on the collection, this is optimistic target which should be, they should be able to achieve it.
Right. We also have Lloyd with us now. He was joining us in the morning, and he's with us now. Lloyd Matthias, he's investor and business strategist. Lloyd, how do you see the budget? Most of our speakers concur that this is a forward-looking budget with not just the short-term wins, a focus on big announcements in the short term. It is more of a continuation of what the government reform agenda, the capex agenda. It all continues. What was your takeaway? The biggest yes or a plus for our country from this budget?
I largely concur, Anisha. I think it's overall positive. Though my little peeve is that there's a lot of tinkering. I didn't see any kind of mega announcements. Let me call out what I think is clearly great positives. I think one is it's clearly forward-looking. It's nice to hear things like a tax holiday for cloud service providers, all the way down to 2047, right? So the much talked about Viksit Bharat 2047 is now kind of beginning to appear in real hard numbers. I think that's huge. I think the continuing growth in capexes, right? The thrust on infrastructure, which is both good in terms of what we need, also as a great employment generator. I think going up by 8.5%, 8.8% to be precise. I think that is great. And also I think it continues, or rather increases on the manufacturing impetus. Right, the whole semiconductor mission 2.0, I think things like biopharma focus, electronic component support, the PLIs. Some of the nice things which are kind of smaller, which are still emerging out of the fine print, which I think are positive. I think one is girls' hostels in all districts of the countries. I mean, it seems like a small thing to say, but I think it's quite relevant. Talking about 700 districts and having women's hostels, I think is something that is going to get more women into our workforce, much needed. And hopefully it'll be done with a public-private partnership. I also am glad that we finally called out tourism. She talked of developing 5 regional tourism hubs, talked of medical tourism. I think that was great. And also a little bit futuristic, things like the rare earth corridors and getting NRIs to invest into our stock markets, right? I think that's going to be, a positive impetus. Like I said, my big peeve was no big headline, nothing significant in terms of ease of doing business, absolutely no call out in ease of living, right? This whole pollution thing, I didn't make a mention. It's large And to my mind, it has the potential, not the potential, but it's actually going to impact real business. So I think that's one way. I also thought that the budget did not meet tech and startup support expectations, right? Our whole startup euphoria has eased out a bit. There's talk about, deep tech startups, but I think nothing. We didn't even, kind of casually mention it. And of course, the little dampener is, the increase in securities transaction tax, the STTs on futures and options. I mean, it's just a market dampener, and I know the markets have recovered, but that might take a little bit of a toll in terms of, guys who do a lot of speculative trading. I'm not for it in any way, but just as a point, I think it's a little bit of a dampener. But overall, I'd say good. But I'd hope it was slightly more visionary, in line with the Prime Minister's largely visionary callouts. This seems more like a setting the course, but lots of little minor tinkering.
Right. Abhijit, I want to come to you on the emphasis on connectivity, because the government has announced, I think, 6 high-speed corridors.
Yes.
These are, I think, rail corridors. They're also announcing, development of waterways, inland waterways, and cargo movement on waterways. Now, we had heard the government talk about interlinking of the rivers. Nothing much has come through. How will cargo move on rivers? And what more can be done? She also spoke about seaplanes. Indigenously developed seaplanes will be given incentives. When it comes to this connectivity piece, how big are the announcements?
See, Government of India has been dedicatedly, focusedly working on reduction of our GDP logistic spend from a long period of time.
And it has delivered on that.
The first component to deliver was to develop infrastructure. When you develop infrastructure, you get to know that what sort of logistic spend, because our calculation mechanism was also to a certain extent very vague. It was calculating with same scale waterways, rail, road, aviation and trail, dedicated freight corridor. When correct measures were taken, we had clarity much more ahead that which one is going to serve us better. When you look at waterways and when you look at dedicated freight corridor, the previous investment which has gone into PM Gati Shakti dedicated freight corridor, and then new portal and corridor uploading points has been created, then it has given a very positive impact that waterways and dedicated freight corridor has served well. And when you look at the achievement, 8.79 November 2025, when we achieved our single digit logistic spend, it was from then a part of surprise that what is next in budget, because you said something you were building and you then achieved it single digit. Historically, we are 16-14% GDP spend. This is next. You have to improve connectivity, because alone spending on infrastructure is to a certain extent now not serving the purpose. Your 4th largest economy and 30 minutes of rain in Delhi or Gurgaon, everything is stuck. So how do you look at connectivity? How do you separate freight? How do you separate passenger? There's a different all sort of ways India need to find. Otherwise, we all would be in a very stuck situation, because if an economy is not moving on road, and road is why overpopulated is because of trucks and many other ways which are also using. So now this budget looks like exploring new avenues, new opportunities to move freight on dedicated freight corridor, waterways, and developing new age of infrastructure, so that the infrastructure previously developed would have ease of mobility. We are also planning to move away from FASTag, which was boom barrier based FASTag, to a multi-lane free flow tolling, so that nobody need to stop or be into queue. So all this is bringing together the ease of mobility, and this ease of mobility required a good spend on digital infrastructure, not only limited to physical infrastructure. So I look at it very positive and very progressive. It will bring different indicators in next year.
Okay, and I hope the Ganga cruise also becomes more affordable for everyone, because we're all looking forward to it, but the costs are still exorbitant.
Once you have waterways coming for freight, definitely it will have infrastructure which can also be used for tourism.
Okay. And that will be a big plus.
And that brings, because last year I think 2,000 crore rupees for 25 destination was our finance minister allocated, and this brings us to a new economy, which is a cultural economy. UP has been a beneficiary to it, and some state, I can say UP and Gujarat, who has been done, UP alone has done 121 crore footfall.
Yeah, that's all thanks to Varanasi.
Not Varanasi, Ayodhya.
Yeah, the temple tourism.
Temple tourism.
That is really picking up.
Yeah,
New ideas are coming up and working well.
And this is now being developed as an economic corridor. So you can say cultural tourism or religious tourism is not a bookish word now. So these are new economies which are growing. If we will not look into it, if we will not improve it further, this year also, Finance Minister has given some more allocation to tourism. And these all are not the soft skill tourism. These are infrastructure on those locations. So I see in this budget, it's a budget of new economies. Circular economy, cultural economy, ease of living and ease of mobility.
All right, future looking budget that has come in. Now, we're expecting a reaction to come in from the Prime Minister on the budget as well. But a quick reaction from, all right, let's just cut in and listen to the Prime Minister speaking about today's budget.
विकसित भारत की हमारी ऊंची उड़ान का मजबूत आधार है। साथियों, आज भारत जिस रिफॉर्म एक्सप्रेस पर सवार है, इस बजट से उसे नई ऊर्जा, नई गति मिलेगी। जो पाथ ब्रेकिंग रिफॉर्म्स किए गए हैं, वो एस्पिरेशन से भरे हुए भारत के साहसिक, टैलेंटेड युवाओं को उड़ने के लिए खुला आसमान देते हैं। ये बजट ट्रस्ट बेस्ड गवर्नेंस और ह्यूमन सेंट्रिक अर्थरचना के विजन को साकार करता है। एक ऐसा यूनिक बजट है जिसमें फिस्कल डेफिसिट कम करने, इन्फ्लेशन कंट्रोल करने पर फोकस है और इसके साथ ही बजट में हाई कैपेक्स और हाई ग्रोथ का भी समन्वय है। साथियों, ये बजट भारत की वैश्विक भूमिका को नए सिरे से सशक्त करता है। भारत के 140 करोड़ नागरिक फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग इकोनॉमी बनकर ही संतुष्ट नहीं है। हम जल्द से जल्द दुनिया की तीसरी सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बनना चाहते हैं। ये करोड़ों देशवासियों का संकल्प है। दुनिया के एक ट्रस्टेड डेमोक्रेटिक पार्टनर और ट्रस्टेड क्वालिटी सप्लायर के रूप में भारत की भूमिका लगातार बढ़ रही है। हाल में जो बड़ी बड़ी ट्रेड डील्स भारत ने की है, मदर ऑफ ऑल डील्स, उसका मैक्सिमम बेनिफिट भारत के युवाओं को मिले, भारत के लघु और मध्यम उद्योग वालों को मिले, इस दिशा में बजट में बड़े बड़े कदम उठाए गए हैं। साथियों, इस बजट में मेक इन इंडिया और आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान को नई रफ्तार के लिए महत्वाकांक्षी रोड मैप प्रस्तुत किया गया है। इस बजट में नई उभरती इंडस्ट्रीज यानी सनराइज सेक्टर्स को जिस मजबूती के साथ समर्थन दिया गया है, वह अभूतपूर्व है। बायो फार्मा शक्ति मिशन, सेमीकंडक्टर मिशन 2.0, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कंपोनेंट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग स्कीम, रेयर अर्थ कॉरिडोर का निर्माण, क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स पर बल, टेक्सटाइल सेक्टर में नई स्कीम, हाईटेक टूल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को बढ़ावा, चैंपियन एमएसएमईज तैयार करना, ये फ्यूचरिस्टिक है, देश की वर्तमान और भविष्य की आवश्यकताओं का ध्यान रखती है। एमएसएमईज को, हमारे लघु और कुटीर उद्योगों को जो समर्थन इस बजट में मिला है, वो उन्हें लोकल से ग्लोबल बनने की नई ताकत देगा। साथियों, बजट में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को मजबूत करने के लिए कई बड़े कदम उठाए गए हैं। डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट कॉरिडोर, देश भर में वाटरवेज का विस्तार, हाई स्पीड रेल कॉरिडोर, टियर 2 और टियर 3 शहरों के विकास पर विशेष ध्यान और शहरों को मजबूत आर्थिक आधार देने के लिए म्युनिसिपल बॉन्ड्स को बढ़ावा। ये सारे कदम विकसित भारत की यात्रा की गति को और तेज करेंगे। साथियों, किसी भी देश की सबसे बड़ी पूंजी उसके नागरिक होते हैं। बीते वर्षों में हमारी सरकार ने देश के नागरिकों के सामर्थ्य को बढ़ाने पर अभूतपूर्व निवेश किया है। हमारा प्रयास स्किल, स्केल और सस्टेनेबिलिटी को निरंतर बल देने का रहा है। जैसा कि आज पार्लियामेंट में निर्मला जी ने कहा है, यह युवा शक्ति बजट है। उसमें युवा की सोच भी है, युवा के सपने भी हैं, युवा का संकल्प भी है और साथ साथ युवा की गति भी है। बजट में जो प्रावधान किए गए हैं, उससे अलग अलग सेक्टर्स में लीडर्स, इनोवेटर्स और क्रिएटर्स तैयार होंगे। मेडिकल हब्स के निर्माण से, एलाइड हेल्थ प्रोफेशनल्स के माध्यम से, ऑरेंज इकोनॉमी यानी ऑडियो विजुअल गेमिंग को बढ़ावा देकर, पर्यटन को प्रोत्साहन देकर और खेलो इंडिया मिशन के माध्यम से युवाओं के लिए नए अवसरों के द्वार खुलेंगे। भारत को दुनिया का डेटा सेंटर हब बनाने के लिए टैक्स में बड़ी छूट की घोषणा भी की गई है। मैं भारत के युवाओं को विशेष तौर पर इस बजट की बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं, क्योंकि इससे एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन को बड़ा बूस्ट मिलेगा। मुझे बहुत खुशी है कि इस बजट में टूरिज्म और विशेषकर नॉर्थ ईस्ट में टूरिज्म को बढ़ावा देने के लिए भी ठोस कदम उठाए गए हैं। भारत के अलग अलग राज्यों को ताकतवर बनाकर संतुलित विकास की नींव भी इस बजट में मजबूत की गई है। साथियों, हमारे देश में 10 करोड़ से ज्यादा महिलाएं सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप से जुड़ी हैं और बड़ा सफल अभियान रहा है। महिलाओं द्वारा निर्मित, महिलाओं द्वारा संचालित सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स का आधुनिक इकोसिस्टम बने, बजट में इसे प्राथमिकता दी गई है। कोशिश यही है कि हर घर लक्ष्मी जी पधारे, हर जिले में छात्राओं के लिए नए हॉस्टल बनाने का अभियान भी शिक्षा को सुलभ बनाएगा। साथियों, भारत की कृषि, डेयरी सेक्टर, फिशरीज, इन्हें हमारी सरकार ने हमेशा सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता दी है। इस बजट में भी नारियल, काजू, कोको और चंदन की पैदावार से जुड़े किसानों के लिए अनेक अहम कदम उठाए गए हैं। भारत विस्तार एआई, इस टूल से किसानों को उनकी भाषा में जानकारी मिलने से उन्हें बहुत मदद मिलेगी। फिशरीज और पशुपालन में उद्यमिता, उसको बढ़ावा देने से गांव में ही रोजगार और स्वरोजगार के और ज्यादा अवसर बनेंगे। साथियों, ये बजट एम्बिशियस भी है और ये बजट देश की एस्पिरेशन को भी एड्रेस करता है। मैं एक बार फिर निर्मला जी और उनकी पूरी टीम को इस फ्यूचरिस्टिक बजट के लिए, संवेदनशील बजट के लिए, गांव, गरीब, किसान का कल्याण करने वाले बजट के लिए बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Right, the Prime Minister hailing this budget is with us. And Anil, as a last word, I want to take a question to you on which is the one sector which has got the biggest benefit. Is it going to be electronics, to your mind, or data centers? And what was the biggest ouch point for you, not expected or underwhelming in the budget?
Anisha, the ouch point is what all of us have said today is the lack of the big headlines. But having said that, and have you heard the Prime Minister, it's clear that this government's intent is to spread the benefits, as it were. So, to give you an example, when you pull so many 50 crore people out of poverty, abject poverty, you are basically adding stakeholders in the system. Similarly, in you banked 50 crore people in the last 10 years. So by banking these people, you have added them to the formal economy. So if you look at it from that point of view, there's a complete consistency in this budget. They lack headlines, but they attempt to try and draw more stakeholders into the system in an incremental way, which don't attract the kind of headlines that we expect. So I would say that this budget is, to sum it up, is continuity with change and is, of course, still on course with India's audacious ambition. And finally, the budget is not the final policy point or statement for this government. There's lots of work that happens outside the budget. And one simple example is the ease of doing business. The Jan Vishwas bill, which was supposed to be introduced in Parliament, the 3.0 in winter session, has been delayed. So that would also go a long way and is not in the budget. So let's see this budget as one of the many building blocks that the government is adopting to basically grow India's growth trajectory.
Definitely. Thanks so much for joining us, Anil, and sharing your views on the budget and the impact it's going to have, this year's budget. Certainly empowering what the Prime Minister says, greater employment in our country, and of course, one which is made for the long term. We want to get in some reactions from the industry, and Deepak Ajwani, editor, Economic Times Online, spoke with Pranav Satya of Ernst & Young. Okay, yeah, so we'll get that to you. But at this point of time, let's get in a few more industry reactions and hop across to our studios at FICCI.
Hello and welcome to ET Budget Newsroom. Well, my name is Shata Jananda, and well, today it has been a roller coaster Sunday, we could say that, because all we have seen is the markets heading towards, you could say, 22,000 points drop, and then stabilizing around about towards 600 points in intraday trade. Obviously, we don't have, market is still not shut as of now, but definitely it has been a growth-oriented budget, that is for sure. But there are near-term hiccups, we could say that, because we've seen some STT spike happening as, premium on the STT is something which has actually troubled markets in the near term. But I have Sunil Sanghai with us to take us through what exactly you feel about the budget, Sunil.
Thank you, Chitij. As you rightly mentioned, that the Sunday, but I would say the Sunday well spent. The number of things have happened in the budget, particularly for practitioners like us, which is connected with the capital market. I would split this into three parts. Look at the fiscal part. So fiscal deficit, we are bang on target, 4.4%. Last year, we did better than our target. Going forward, 4.3, the expectation market was expecting somewhere around 4.3 or 4.2. So we are well within the range. There is a bit of confusion about the gross borrowing number. I believe we will reconcile as we go along. We have a weekend really to reconcile. As far as certain aspects which is impacting the market, particularly STT. So this, you look at totality, we had buyback which was taken out, right? Now the buyback is back and the market was requiring it. I would put a rider on the buyback that we would request SEBI to review their regulation for buyback, because SEBI had cut down. There were two methods, open market and tender route. They actually removed the open market and only the tender route, and it was not taken up because in any case from the taxation side it was not making sense. So we would request SEBI to really chip in now and bring the buyback back again. So that is a counterbalancing. The third, as far as the corporate is concerned, there are a number of initiatives. Look at one example of data center. So if anybody sets up a data center in India, there is a tax holiday up to 2047, and that could for the global. So that would have a big impact on FDI. So in totality, we need to put this in the perspective that now the budget has become much more routine exercise, Chitij, than what 30 years ago. I've been watching budget from 1983. So at that time, everything used to come in the budget. Now the direct tax was taken care of outside. Indirect tax, direct tax was taken care of last year. Indirect tax is taken out now. A lot of policy announcements happened outside the budget. So it has a very limited now exercise.
Absolutely. No, valid point there, Sunil. And let me also come to Naveen. He's just joined us. Naveen Kulkarni, who's a CIO, Access Securities PMS. Naveen, welcome to the show. And let me also, get your perspective as to, markets fell sharply after the budget despite strong capex numbers. We've seen spike in the capex number to nearly 1 lakh crore. You could say that, from the 11.11 lakh crores to now over 12 lakh crores. Is this reaction driven more by sentiments or just by fundamentals? What would be your take on that?
Yeah, so clearly the reactions have been driven by sentiments, right? So at one point in time, the market was down by probably 2.5% also. So, and then we have seen some bit of pullback also coming. So if you see the markets for a while, the trading volumes have been a little thinner, right? They have not been like really exciting. When the sell-off has happened, it's not happened on very large volumes. It has happened on quite thinner volumes. And when some degree of institutional buying is coming, seeing opportunity, so we are seeing the pullback also happening. Important will be tomorrow, because I don't think so there would have been significant FII participation, how they read into the market, and especially let's say the STT hike, because that impacts them also in some way, because we have a lot of large trading hedge funds who are there in India, and how they would see that, and whether their trading volumes could see an impact. So we could see some bit of more impact coming tomorrow. So tomorrow and probably next week is where the market should settle. Clearly, we have been in an oversold market, and we have been seeing a little more selling. I think we should be okay from here.
Absolutely. Well, yes, we did see a knee-jerk reaction coming in where Sensex, sort of slipped more than 2,000 points. Nifty 50, slips below the 25,000 mark. But Amit also joined us. Amit Gupta was the CIO PMS Equities at Motilal Oswal Private Wealth Limited. Amit, welcome to the show. I'm sure you've seen all the action on a Sunday. Not the Sunday probably you were looking for, but yes, it's an adventurous one. But as Naveen rightly pointed out, that much of the action will be probably, we'll see it in the coming week. Starting Monday when the foreign portfolio participation will start coming in. So, how will sort of this steep increase in STT on FNO changes trading behavior for retail and proprietary traders? Because you track all these things very closely. Amit, over to you on that.
Yeah. So, see, this thing was very much there that the excessive leverage or excessive speculation, government was always looking to curb. So, number of times the papers came from SEBI, how to curb it. And then the contract values were increased over the period, but they did not stop it, right? So, but we have also seen that excessive speculation leads to a lot of losses also to many players in the market. And I think this STT increase is an attack, you can say, directly on the high frequency trades or on a low margin high frequency trades. That is what I would say. Because if you remember near the expiry, we used to have such an excessive volumes and it happens on very low premiums, option premiums, right? Sure. Because we know that in options only, we are getting most of the volume in derivatives. Exactly. So it is increase in futures, that is fine. But I think in options, the people who are doing 3 rupees, 2 rupees. So ultimately for every seller, we understand from the seller perspective, if there is an out of money option strike, then he is writing, we can understand because you don't have that much of move in the index, but you understand from the buyer perspective. And I think if they are attacking those areas, then obviously it will impact the volumes of those. It's not that every broker is indulged in that. There may be few people who are indulged in that. So it is very, I think, targeted thing possibly on those areas. This is what I feel.
Absolutely. Valid point there. High frequency trading is something which is under the scanner. Sunil, let me get your perspective on the macro front. Does the sort of 4.3% fiscal deficit target strike the right balance between growth support and macro stability?
Very good question, Chitish. I think, again, let me put this in the perspective. One is 4.3, as I mentioned to you, was in line with what market was expecting. You need to put that in the perspective that this is to be read with the capex. Now, the capex has gone up by 8-9%. Yes, the expectation, I saw the commentary, the expectation was more than 20% also. But of course, the constraint of the revenue. The thing is that we are in a year where you have double cut on the tax, direct tax. Last year, there was a significant cut on the direct tax. And GST this year, right? And our revenue growth, I think approximately 10.4% was the revenue growth target taken for next year. The revenue growth is going to be subdued given the lower inflation, because that's how you the nominal GDP and then you add on to that for the revenue growth. Given all this constraint, maintaining 4.3, I think is remarkable. That's a positive job. Can I just take one more minute and add two more specific reforms? These things are hidden somewhere, and we need to really pull that out. One very interesting mention was on the banking sector reform committee being set up for the banking sector. Back to the banking sector, long back, we took a call that we will not allow corporates in the banking sector. We will not allow banks to come and acquire Indian banks, which has started happening. I hope this comprehensive review actually includes all of that, because we need capital in the banking. And for the growth of the economy, we need larger bank. And the government cannot keep supporting and the capital market cannot keep supporting. We need large pockets of the capital coming into the banking sector. And therefore, the whole review of the ownership, voting right, the promoter, all of that. So that's one good mention. The second point was around RBI FEMA guideline for non-debt. That's for equity. And that impacts your FDI because there are a number of valuation angles mentioned there. And this is again, there was a guideline which was set up in 2014-15 and it has not been thereafter. And these are all the irritants for inflow and outflow of the direct investment. So some of those areas has been talked about, which is very positive.
Absolutely, and much of the money is sort of moving from bank FDs to the equity market. That is also something which government has on its mind, how to sort of manage the liquidity in the banking system as well. Naveen, let me also get your perspective. The point where you left. I'll just pick up from there only. Because today is a holiday, and do you see the post-budget sell-off as as an overreaction to the STT hike, or a sort of a genuine shift in the market structure now? Why I say that is because we've seen quite a bit of selling from the FIs as well in the last year, 2025, more than 1.6 lakh crores sort of withdrawn. And then, so far in the month of Jan as well, the figure is close to 50,000 odd crores, or between 40 to 50,000 odd crores. So how do you see that as, something happening in the coming week?
If you look at it, the hike in, let's say, security transaction tax, both on futures as well as on equity.
Right, we are delighted to be joined by Mr. Amitabh Kant, India's G20 Sherpa and former CEO, Niti Aayog, joining us now. Mr. Amitabh Kant, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Kant, the Prime Minister has hailed this budget as a forward-looking one which will generate a lot of employment. How do you assess this budget, which seemed to be a little low on big ticket announcements?
Yeah, but this is a very responsible and a prudent budget for very complex times. We are in the midst of geopolitical disruption. We are in the midst of breakdown of global supply chains. We are in the midst of emergence of new technology. The world is going through the kind of disruption which has never before happened in the history of the world. And therefore, at this time, to ensure that there is fiscal consolidation, the fiscal deficit comes down, to ensure that the debt to GDP ratio is brought down, to ensure that the capex spend goes up to 12.2 lakh crores, and is effectively about 4.4% of your total GDP, is, to my mind, a sign of a very, very responsible and prudent budget, because the budget lays a lot of emphasis on infrastructure, on manufacturing, and on cutting-edge areas of growth.
Right. But Mr. Kant, we do need some of those big-ticket announcements, particularly since budget is seen as a platform. Now, the government is doing a lot of things.
So
right.
I think
we've got good growth, we've got low inflation, but we have the rupee at 92, and foreign outflows are coming in. The growth that we have should be a magnet for foreign investment coming through. That's not working. Short-term flows are going out, and we're doing nothing to stem that.
So I think two things. One is that there is a big ticket announcement. I think the biggest and the smartest move in this budget is to provide tax exemption for data centers till 2047. 75% of the total investment in the world taking place today is in artificial intelligence and data centers. India has both data sets, and India has the talent, and if you are able to ensure that data centers are put up here, then you will be the champion of cloud, of AI, and of data centers of the future. So I think that, to my mind, is a big ticket, smart announcement. But on the other issue of investments, etc., you need predictability and consistency of policy over a long period of time, and not in totality, but if you look at it, individual piece decisions, if you look at the announcement for reform of FEMA, which is the non-debt instrument rules, if you look at the customs reforms, which the finance minister has said will be trust-based, if you look at the rationalization of duties, and if you look at the financial sector reforms of which a high-level committee has been constituted, and if you look at the implementation of the new Income Tax Act, which will come into effect from 1st April, in totality, all these things together will help making India easy, simple, predictable, and consistent over a long period of time.
Right. So, but in the short term, you want to do something, right? Because the rupee is weak. And while that benefits exporters, some people then worry about the the current account number as well. So, we want long-term predictability in our regulation and our frameworks. But in the short term, some stops can be given to, because the global situation is such, if the differential between earnings for a foreign investor between a developed market and India is going to go down because of the currency depreciation, that will repel capital.
So all the countries which grew for a long period of time, Japan, Korea, China, all of them had weak currencies for long periods of time when they were growing and expanding. None of them had strong currencies. Currency depreciation was a very critical component of their growth process. A strong currency doesn't mean that you have a muscular economic policy. I think also the rupee is weak because the dollar is strengthening. The dollar is very strong, and dollar is strong, and therefore you look at it relative to dollar. So my view on that is that let's not get carried away. There are structural issues in the world. There are global complexities, and rupee, the currency behaves on account of global factors. Any amount of impetus to rupee in the budget would not help, to my mind.
Right. Mr. Kant, the Prime Minister has hailed this budget to be one that will create a lot of employment. Now, if you have a lot of tax incentives for data centers, and they do come up earnestly in our country over the next few years, it will create, employment for high-skilled STEM workers. But some people, like some of our analysts here and experts here, have said that that's not how Bharat works. Bharat needs different kind of employment. Do you think both needs will be fulfilled by this budget, the employment for Bharat and the employment for India?
No, jobs are critical. You can't have growth without jobs, and therefore the budget lays emphasis on textiles. It lays emphasis on footwear and leather. It lays emphasis on marine sector. It lays emphasis on MSME sector, where it talks about 10,000. It talks about champions MSME, puts an allocation of 10,000 crore for MSME growth fund. It talks about strengthening trade. In fact, it mandates it for the public sector undertaking. It talks about credit guarantee mechanisms linked to GEM. It talks about asset-based security for MSMEs, which will ensure adequate liquidity for them. So all these are important, but my view is that in the long run, jobs are created by growth, they are created by manufacturing, they are created by good urbanization. And cities, when you have 5,000 crore per city being put in for economic region for tier 2, tier 3 cities, that will create jobs. If you bring in new 7 high-speed rail corridors to act as growth connectors, that means you'll actually urbanize the entire area between these two cities. So all that is important. You need to look at the budget in its totality, and then you'll realize that this budget is actually about growth with job creation.
Right. Mr. Kant, in this budget, the outlay for defense capital expenditure has gone up by nearly 22%. What does this mean for our national security and for the domestic industry now gaining a lot of traction in the defense sector?
So the challenge with defense budget always has been its inability to utilize resources. Last year was the first time that they were able to utilize the resources. If they're able to utilize the resources, you should put more resources, because defense budget is key to innovation, is the key to R&D. When we talk about defense, we are basically saying that it'll be the driver of innovation, R&D, and manufacturing. The multiplier impact of defense will be felt in many, many other areas of growth. And to that extent, I entirely agree with this increased allocation. That will be a very key driver of the growth process of India, the manufacturing process of India, and also to drive innovation in a big way.
Right. So what about the green economy and the circular economy? Here we have heard some specific allocation coming in for CCUS, which is technology largely in pilot stages